Welcome to the Binge Watch Podcast, where myself and my friends will sit around and talk about the TV shows that we like, how we watch them, and more importantly, why we watch them, and we'll try to capture the natural flow of our conversations that this group of friends has been having over the course of the years. Oh, and did I mention we have drinks? Now here's Fall into Flux from their album, From the Outside Looking In.
About these high school girls. They get older, I stay the same age.
I know, but that age really isn't that good.
No. Maybe college level, but not high school.
No, I mean, not the girls. I mean, your age currently.
When you're creeping on the parking lots. Oh, I mean, I'm so disappointed for you for losing that session. That sucks. That's 2 sessions, dude.
I know.
Lost Peel sessions.
Yeah, it's at 36 seconds. Come on, Meemaw.
Meemaw has got to
make a poopy.
Yeah. God, I'm so sick of waiting on her taking a dump.
Make a poopy.
Dropping a deuce.
She comes shuffling out here.
Yeah.
Hey, before she started eye pooping, she could be the speed pooper of all time.
Eye pooping?
Eye pooping.
Checking your phone while you're doing the deuce.
You don't know the eye pooping term?
No, I've never heard the eye pooping term. I mean, I know people read magazines and books, and I know people take their phone in there, but I didn't know there was a new eye pooping term.
Yes. It's patented by Ron Shockley.
Eye pooping turd.
All right, we're recording.
Okay. Is it going for real?
Hopefully.
As BS as that may sound.
We don't believe you.
Don't believe you, mister.
Okay. Welcome to the podcast. BingeWatchPodcast.com.
Again.
Welcome again.
The re-recorded version.
Boom.
Yeah.
Paul, yet again, got so drunk he knocked over all the equipment.
Or Brian.
Alternate theory is this one again is
Brian just didn't record it.
That theory cannot be proven.
So, what was that? 35 minutes gone?
40.
So we have Paul, the bearded wonder.
Hey, what's going on?
Ginger.
Hola.
Who missed last week. And she really wants to talk about how big of a huge 30 Seconds to Mars fan she is, and she runs a website and does all their...
She loves David Caruso
Stevie Nicks. She loves Stevie Nicks, David Caruso, Nickelback, Jared Leto.
I mean, who don't like Nickelback?
That's right.
All of us.
Yeah, I mean, that's like how are they so successful? They sell out all these arenas and everything, and like they have so much hate out there.
But yet there's websites dedicated to the hatred or the suckage of that band.
I know.
Nickelback sucks.
It's so
Yeah, and it's you take one song for what it is, but it's like all their songs sound exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's formula.
Yeah, now I got to read my joke because it was lost on the last session.
Well, Ron, welcome to the podcast, and please redo your joke.
Okay. Hi, everybody. It was on the Nickelback subject. What's the joke?
Nickelback
Nickelback walks into a bar.
What did they do in the bar, Ron?
There's no joke, Paul, because murder music is not funny.
That's not funny at all, Ron. Oh, wait. There's
You mean
Nickelback.
the joke or
Right.
That's the
Exactly.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, insert 30 Seconds to Mars is in a bar.
What do they do in the bar, Ginger?
What is it, Ginger? Can you tell us something?
There's no joke because they suck.
something Jared Leto. Something Mark Caruso.
Yeah, so we have to... I can no longer use the word phenomenal.
Oh, right. Why? Why is that, Brian?
I don't know. It's been retired.
Yeah.
It's been banned.
It's like Jordan. It was so good in its time.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we will be issuing big word alerts for Paul.
Yes.
Confabulation, whatever you said last.
Caveat. Brian, what's words?
Flabbergastion.
Brian, what's words? What's words?
It reminds me of that Beavis and Butthead episode. They're trying to. There's like subtitles on the end. He just looks at it and goes, "Words."
Yeah.
That was the joke or the theme for Michael Hughes.
Right, yeah.
When he was reading anything.
Words.
He doesn't read because it's full of words.
That had strange cryptic handwriting on that page. That's
this
words.
reading wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't for all these words.
I would love to read if it didn't make my brain hurt.
Can somebody read it to me, please?
And last but not least, we want to apologize to David Caruso and all of his fans.
Man,
all three of you.
Dude, you kicked him square in the nuts so many times last episode.
We apologize for all the bad things we said about him.
Not really.
No,
his
we don't
career
apologize.
and his movies. And
because you love yourself some Jade.
And congratulations on his new band and its success, Nickelback.
Nickelback to Mars.
Featuring David Caruso.
Yeah, starring David Caruso.
Yeah.
He's just going to take off his sunglasses and look.
And leave on another pair of
He could be the
sunglasses.
introducer.
And opening is Wesley Snipes.
And Will Smith.
Playing the spoons.
I think it's funny how we're piecing the missing session together, just little bits.
Get it all in there.
Yeah, we're just
I feel like Indiana Jones up in here. We are searching.
Well, you better go get in the refrigerator.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
So, do you want to basically just
start with your BBC stuff. So.
Yeah. So last week we had talked about
careful
how production companies America versus BBC. BBC is the biggest of the big over in the
British
UK.
Broadcasting Company.
That's how I introduce myself to women. I'm the biggest of the big.
I'm the tiniest of the big. So BBC has been around for 92 plus years. They have a long track record. Brian has talked in previous episodes about just the outstanding amount of content that they put out every year. So I was curious about how their system works. That was the interesting thing, is that for all this time, they did things in a certain way. They have commissioning rules. They'll let anybody come to them with a story pitch idea, but they have, it has to go through channels, and basically, don't call us, we'll call you. They will get back and let you know within a couple of weeks, yay or nay. But they have just a ton of content that they sift through. And that was the interesting thing that when I was looking up the information on how they commission. They're going to start spinning off productions that they don't actively pick up for BBC. They're going to start doing rather than just airing BBC shows. PBS will now co-produce its own BBC shows. I got this off the AV Club. It's about 8 to 10 new programming specials across roughly 20 hours per year with PBS.
Is that not including Benny Hill reruns?
Yeah. I thought you were going to start doing the mariachi song there for a second. I was like, that is wrong.
Yeah, was it Yakety Sax?
Yeah.
Bruce Randolph?
Yeah,
where they all running fast.
And there's always some lady with her boobs shaking.
It has to come across the screen at some point.
That's who they're chasing, though, right? In all those scenes?
That's either Benny Hill or any Game of Thrones episode. I'm begging my sister.
What?
Jamie Lannister.
Oh, okay. I thought we just had our first big breaking news story on.
It'd be news to my mom because I don't have a sister. What? So they instead of setting on top of all these shows that they can't produce, there was some of the articles I was looking at. BBC, their in-house units were having to lay off people, so they're just going to spin properties out and get them out somewhere. And this all ties back into what we was talking about with Hulu, Netflix, Prime. They're hungry for content. So instead of sitting on top of this content that they can't produce in a timely fashion, spin it out. If it's successful, they get a cut of it. So
yeah, and like I said many, many times before, we are in the golden age of television. If watching TV shows and finding good stuff to watch, it's entertaining and kind of keeps you going. There's no, that type of news is fantastic. 20 hours though, does that mean 20? Just going to make 2 shows, 10 episodes or something? Did it go into any detail on that or?
No, it was very, very sort of top line type
Right.
of,
They probably don't even have a real game plan, but it's cool that they're going to do that because they've got all that stuff that they're sitting on.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's cool that they're because like you were saying, there's all these shows you've been talking about. You haven't even like scratched the surface of a lot of these shows that you've watched that are associated with the BBC. So
yeah, so the Hinterland was one of the ones that we talked about in the most recent
episodes.
Lost session. Here's the description on this: a noir crime drama set in Aberystwyth, Wales. That's probably horribly mispronounced. Where the knackered and troubled but intense DCI Tom Mathis is in search for redemption while solving hate crimes. So it's set up in in Wales, and it was originally filmed.
it's set up in a well,
like Jonah,
an Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Inside Orson Welles.
Hey, there's a lot of room.
Yeah, you could probably have a big old house in there.
It'll serve no wine before it's time.
Rosebud.
So, I know exactly.
Man, that was a deep callback from the early mid 70s there, the Ernest and Julio Gallo commercials.
I know.
Orson Welles did.
Instead of being known for Citizen Kane, what is he known for? Getting drunk in commercials.
Right.
Those were brilliant.
Yeah. And before its time, he meant they just finished squishing it like 15 minutes ago because he must get drunk. It was originally filmed in Welsh, and then they translated it and reshot it in English. It's part of that whole thing. But, the big thing that we talked about was how they spin off to Scotland, and now it's not all just London-based, right? Which, if you watch everything that BBC does, I mean, it is crazily based in London, obviously, because that's where they're at. And then there's like 7 detective shows, which I'm not going to mention because I kind of want to do a little bit of a presentation at some point in one of the podcasts that are set in Oxford or around Oxford with all these different investigators over the course of time and stuff. So it's all right there. It's all really centrally located. So they've definitely started to move away. Hinterlands was filmed in Wales. The other show that I talked about was Jack Taylor, which is filmed in Ireland, which stars, let's see if I can remember.
I love his shoes, by the way.
Jack Taylor?
Chuck Taylor.
Chuck Taylor.
Oh.
Jack Taylor makes like really goofy shoes. It's his little brother. They're stupid shoes.
Yeah, they're like more like clown shoes.
Yeah.
Or snowshoes.
But Jared Leto is a big endorser of them.
What did he won Best Supporting Actor?
And Wesley Snipes does the commercials for those.
Best Supporting Actress. Didn't anybody won?
Was it Ian Drag?
30 Seconds from Mars Bars.
Yeah. So Jack Taylor is a fallen. He's in the Guard, which is kind of the national police force of Ireland. He plays a private investigator who does a lot of not so legal work. He's your typical Irish drunk guy. Like, hey, oh my God, I had such a bad day. Let me drink 5 bottles of whiskey. Very torn and emotional.
Rip torn.
Rip torn.
Oh, no. Not going there, are we?
No.
Thank gosh.
No.
I think we almost went off into scatological direction. I'm pretty sure.
We could.
So
big word alert.
Leon Glenn is...
that was a big word.
If that's how you pronounce his first name, is a Scottish actor playing an Irish former policeman in Jack Taylor. And that's a spinoff of some of the BBC stuff. As that stuff has started to spread out between Scotland, Wales, and Ireland and not just be London-based, where it was just the same neighborhoods featured in every show they do.
On that BBC commissioning page I was looking at, that they talked about that. When it filters through the commissioning pipeline, is that a certain amount of content may get, like you're saying, get spin off to Scotland, Ireland, rest of the UK. So, this is digital age now, so they are trying to get their stuff out there. Even more so, because I think you had touched on it a little bit previously, is there so many good shows out there, and people would never hear of them, other than like through podcasts or
I think,
word of mouth.
In re-listening to the third podcast we did, I talked a lot about like how Netflix will not load these shows up for you. Like, even if you go in and watch every American detective show that's out there, it will not load up the BBC shows for you, and it actually you have to scroll way down on the it's a separate category on under TV, so you have to go, new shit TV, and then scroll way down and go to BBC before you get all this stuff.
Does it actually say? Is there a category that says new shit?
Yep.
That would be. I would immediately go to that.
BBC.
I don't want that old
Give me,
shit. I want
give me some of that new
shit.
shit, Paul.
I want some of that new shit, man. Come on.
But you can't get these. They're great shows, and you can't get them to load up because that's in the BBC area. That's not in the CBS TV show type stuff that you watch.
That sounds really.
It is. It's
like
really
you don't
weird.
want somebody to watch that stuff.
Well, they may be just trying to do some type of geographical. You're a U.S. television person. You might not really be familiar with these. I know that they should be tying it together somehow.
They do that. So if you're
they've got a bad linkage problem. They're
if
a bad
you're
algorithm.
in Sweden, they give you Swedish stuff. Netflix. I mean, it's all over Europe, so they do already tailor that to you.
Right.
But it's in English. You know what I mean? So it's albeit the King's English, but you can still understand it. Unless you're living in a trailer, maybe it's difficult.
Yeah. I can't understand the way those folks talk.
They talk dumb.
All these B's and vowels. It sounds like the Bible.
Yeah.
They sound so smart when they saying it.
So those are two shows that are kind of been byproducts of that as they've spread out. Because I want to say that Hinterland, when it was originally done, was done by a small Welsh production company.
Right.
And then the BBC came in and said, hey, that's really good. We want to do that in English. And they brought it kind of in under their umbrella.
And that was something you was talking about before, that there's a lot of new shows being done more north in England and in Scotland and Wales and things like that.
Well, all that stuff's good. And I think we talked before about how, like, if they're sitting on all those properties, they got to have an outlet to get them out. Where rather than, I mean, they have like 3 or 4 BBC channels, and if that's full of these dramas and they don't need any more, then they should be developing the content that they're sitting on and getting it out.
Well, and that's one of the other articles I was looking at because of them spinning things off. They're going to, BBC for the first time in their 92 years is going to let their in-house production companies take things off to like ITV and Channel 4 and the rivals.
Is ITV, is that the Canadian?
No, that's in the UK.
It's UK.
That's UK.
Because there's some that looks really familiar. Keep talking. I want to look at something real quick.
Okay. Do you want me to talk about Unbreakable?
Yep.
Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, talking about things on Netflix this morning. When the first on Netflix, when you first log in and you log in and they have like that big splash screen to where it's what.
Hey, look what we have. You should try this.
You should try this. That show was on this listed this morning. Normally you just click on the image and it takes you to it. It wouldn't. I was clicking. It wouldn't take me to the show. It showed the title. It wouldn't take me to the episodes, and I could add. I had to go and search for it.
Oh my God.
Had to type in and search instead of just clicking it, because most people, I think it
God,
was
that's a dedication to find some suckage.
Yeah. So this show was originally it's co-produced by Tina Fey, 30 Rock and Saturday Night Live.
Me some Tina Fey.
Loves Tina Fey. He likes his women with slight scars on their face.
A little scar, little glasses. Yeah.
So I had to go read, the first time I saw that, I was like, what's up? But she was, slashed by, a mugger or something.
She was cut, she got injured when she was
standing in her front yard as a kid.
She was a little kid, and somebody just cut her.
God, because she lived in New York, right?
Yeah.
God, what a freak show that place is.
Yeah, so anyway, the show's called The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. It stars Ellie Kemper. She was in Aaron.
You just alienated a New York audience.
Aaron in The Office.
I love Brooklyn, though. Go Brooklyn!
As a woman rescued from a cult in Indiana who tries to make it in New York City. So the first thing when she gets to New York, she has to find a gay black friend.
So there was a
So that's
and protect her face from slashers.
I'm not.
It's on my bucket list.
So,
I need a gay black friend.
So
you made fun of me last podcast for one of the descriptions that I read for a show.
Yeah.
Like when you read that description, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah. And if you do a search right now for reviews for this show, Slate.com, it's glowing reviews. They're calling it the next 30 Rock, the next big thing. And I'm like, I watched the first episode this morning, 24 minutes. I'll never get that time back. I'll never get those 24. So I immediately
you doubled down and went for broke.
I was like, yeah, Paul, because we talked about that on like Orphan Black.
Give it a little more rope. Yeah.
Give it a little bit of time.
The first one usually has to establish.
Yeah.
And
there was little funny moments, like I mentioned that she was shaking a rat and it had these huge nuts, and she was shaking it right in front of the camera, and its nuts were dangling around.
Nothing makes Paul giggle like rat testicles,
like rat nuts. But it was. I watched 2 episodes.
Find funny about rat nuts, you sick bastard.
I mean, they're sort of like corn nuts, but they're rat nuts.
I bought a big old bag of them at the 7-Eleven the other day.
I go to the bar to get a drink. I say, "Hey, could I have some rat nuts?" And they think I said corn nuts, and I was like, "No, rat nuts."
Yeah.
I want that.
The squirrel nuts are just as funny too.
True.
So this show, I read the reviews. I watched 2 episodes. I thought it just was not funny to me.
Did you read the reviews after or before?
After.
Yeah.
After.
Because you're like, please, somebody agree with me.
Yeah, and I even typed into Google, I was like, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt reviews that suck.
Yeah.
And
bad
there is not
for this show.
There is not one bad review for this show that was originally done
until
by
now.
NBC until this time.
You didn't check Reddit, did you?
No.
Oh, of course he did.
Well, until NBC.
I'm surprised your browser gets anything except for Reddit.
I know. Paul writes for Reddit.
I searched.
He gets a paycheck from Reddit.
He accounts for like 24% of the clicks on Reddit.
I try. And do you think I would have a username on Reddit? I don't. I'm not even going to get that free fake karma points. I'm not even getting that.
I'm so disappointed.
But you would be a legend if you were registered an actual user.
Oh, whatever. Rat nuts. I've seen them. I've seen that on there.
Have you seen my rat nuts?
It's
They're great.
his login name is I Heart Rat Nuts.
I shake rat nuts.
And the heart is an emoticon.
Yes.
Yeah.
The beating one.
I like my rat nuts shaken, not stirred. So anyway, this show is the first 2 episodes at least. It's just not funny. It has a lot of the same cast members that from 30 Rock. But it's just not. It's not funny.
You know what? The first thing of this show that's not funny is its title is stupid.
Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
That's not funny.
That's like the Mindy Kaling.
I was Googling
project.
that and I was typing in I Heart Kimmy Schmidt.
She's I Heart Rat Nuts. Somebody at Verizon's like, what the?
You better get that locked down as an URL right now. Man.
It's like, man, somebody's going to hear this and is going to sit on it and poach it. I'm like, damn.
Instead of dancing hamsters, you can have dancing
I had
rat
to
nuts.
pay this guy $1,000 to get my own URL. That's bullshit.
Ended up, I like rattesticles.com instead.
That's not fun. Testicles
And it doesn't have
fun.
the same ring to it, does it?
It sounds like a medical website.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Rat cojones, maybe.
Yeah. Cojones. Huevos.
Huevos.
Is
Yeah.
that eggs?
Huevos de ratón.
Mommy,
Viva la rat nuts.
Mommy, how do rats make...
Viva la huevos de la ratón.
Mommy, how do rats make baby batter? In their rat testes. That's the rat nuts.
Wait, can you imagine if you 25% of your body weight was wrapped up in your testicles? How bad that would suck. Look at this big.
No, I can't imagine.
Well, I can. It's not funny.
Well,
See, that's how I don't have testicles.
Y'all seen that there was this guy, I think, down in South America that had that medical condition, and he ended up, those exercise
elephantitis of the testicles.
And he would have to drag these suckers around, and he could sit on them like it was some sort of ergonomic desk or something for work. To sit on it, it's like, hey, this is sort of comfy.
One of those. Remember those bouncy balls you used to sit on, and you could bounce across.
Just
the
don't
yard?
bounce too hard.
It's like, at what point do they get so big? You're just like, hey, should we do something about this?
When they're the
But
size
this show,
of your head, I think that's
even
time.
Tina Fey backing and all that, it just sounds terrible.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that I didn't do any big digging on if she's actually wrote the first episode, because I think I'd mentioned before, it had sort of a little bit of the comedy flavor of 30 Rock, but it just, to me,
fell flat.
it felt like it was just all over the place, and
It's
it was
gotta
just,
be
I
like-
didn't laugh.
It's another
Except at the rat
friend of
testes.
hers that's a writer wrote it, and she threw her name on it to get some money lent up for it.
It was co-produced, 13 episodes. At the end of last year,
and
NBC was thinking of running it, and then they just passed it off to Netflix.
Yeah.
So that, to me...
Which probably Netflix got a great deal on it. There'll be a bunch of people that watch it because, hey, it's something new, and so they'll get a bunch of eyeballs on it, where NBC probably would have been canceled 2 or 3 shows in.
And that's what makes me wonder is how much did Netflix pay for this show, these 13 episodes? Because unless after the first 2 that I watched I didn't like, unless it gets a lot better, I can't see them making another season.
It says on IMDb, it says season 2 premiere March 2016.
Yuck.
Yeah, but that's just could be hopeful. Like,
hey,
we think if we did do production, that's when we would do it.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see if Netflix is funding it.
Because Netflix, they restarted Arrested Development, and they made some.
It says Netflix picked it up with a 2-season commitment.
Oh, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Okay, there.
Wow, like you bring in value.
Look at me with a phone.
That's right. With an electronic device that can hook up to the internet.
I heart rat Google.
As long as I have Google, I know shit.
See, and that's so. If they're really going to do, if they signed a 2-season commitment, I mean, so after, because I'd forgotten how funny 30 Rock was. And I went right after I watched it. I was like, dirty.
Can I ask a question about 30 Rock?
Sure.
Because Ron and I disagree on this. I'm going to ask anyway. So I lost interest in 30 Rock after season. I don't know how many seasons was 30 Rock.
7.
Yeah, I was about to say 6 or 7.
Really?
Yeah, well, 7. Yeah,
like season 4 or 5, I was like, all right, this is all been done.
Like 3 or 4.
Well, so you missed the last podcast, but this was I watched all 4 seasons of Archer that was on, which I thought was super funny. But it becomes like the been there, done that. Like
they start repeating the same joke.
They get lazy.
Could you choke me just a little bit?
Just a little bit. You got to whisper. Could you choke me just a little bit?
Brian, could you choke me just a little bit?
I will choke the fuck out of you, man. So you have to.
Hey, are we still recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, recording check. Are we actually recording?
Let me look.
Talk about getting the flop spots again. I was like, I don't want to repeat this.
Uh-oh, you guys don't want to hear this. We're recording. So, but that's the thing, and for me, it's just a lazy writing thing. Like, I know that the writers of these shows are capable of coming up with additional funny stuff, but they hit on like something like, oh, this is kind of funny, and they just beat it to death over 4 or 5 episodes to where exactly what you're talking about. The next episode is like, I saw those fucking jokes last week. Yeah. Oh, I saw those jokes 2 weeks ago. But 30 Rock in season 6 and 7 did break out of that a little bit.
I gave up on season 5.
Yeah, because it just becomes the same thing again and again and again. And it is 100%, in my opinion, just lazy writing. And they've got something that's sort of funny, and enough people tune in that they don't have to retool something and really go back to the drawing board and some stuff. And that's my whole thing with sitcoms, is that they get, oh, this is the thing people find funny, and they just ride it into the ground, and they never really try to stay fresh, which is a super difficult thing to do.
Right, you have to stay in the formula to some degree, but yeah, how do you stay in that, stay with what people know, what's funny and what works, and yet be adventurous and
a comedy sitcom. I don't necessarily think that's true with the drama.
No. Drama,
MASH,
a lot more ways to go. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, and like with Parks and Recreation, I think it's a really funny show. This is they're airing the last season this year.
Just had it.
It just
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and this last season, I didn't enjoy it because it was just flat. Like Brian was saying, they knew it's the last season, and they're just wrapping stuff up.
Well, exactly. And how many people of that show have taken off in a big way?
Right.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's a star on that show now.
Yeah.
Like it's funny. I've never watched one episode, but I saw watching all this Hulu stuff. They're pumping it up because they have season 7 on there right now, whatever the last season is, and they're trying to get you to go watch the last season as they're rolling it out. But what's his name? Whatever.
Aziz Ansari.
Something like that.
He's a comedian.
Yeah, so he's like, his stand-up is killing it. He's selling out arenas.
Yeah.
He's got movie deals.
He's got a lot of specials on Netflix right now.
Other dude is like major movie star.
Chris Pratt.
Yeah. I mean, so everybody spun out. So they all had to just come back and say, hey, just like with Friends, probably, F it. Let's give the fans a closing to this thing and come back and do a season. But they're all so spread out. And I would think that's for the writers, too. I'm sure all those writers have been bled dry that really got that up and running. And they're jumping ship, too. It's like, hey, I've got to get a new thing.
Yeah.
My name's out there. And so you get this kind of hodgepodge of like, let's just finish it off and let the fans have some closure. Yeah. But I would imagine it's not very good.
Well, and that's for me at least. I thought that was a real shame because I burned through all of the The Office episodes, and I really enjoyed that. It was a very satisfying show.
Did you go all the way through to the end?
All the way through. Yeah. It was very satisfying.
Even after Steve Carell took off.
And I thought it was going to... It was a little bit different because he was so cringeworthy on that show. But...
every time you say cringeworthy, it reminds me of Seinfeld's Spongeworthy.
Ah, yes.
Or SpongeBob.
Is he Spongeworthy?
Is he? Yeah.
Is he? Because they don't sell these anymore. I mean, they got limited supply.
I think it just clicked.
You just got it?
Yeah. So,
and she would be like, I don't think he's Spongeworthy. I don't think he is.
Yeah. For me, The Office, it was satisfying all the way through the ending, and I didn't watch any of the episodes on TV until it had finished, a couple of years after it finished, and that was the first thing I'd really seriously binged through, where I just watched episode after episode after episode. And then with Parks and Rec, I never watched it on TV, and I started going through the seasons on Netflix, and I really enjoyed it until I started recording this. I didn't even realize it wrapped up because I stopped watching it.
Right.
And it's like it lamed out the very last season on me, and I thought that was a shame.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fairly typical, though. That's something hit. Like I said 2 podcasts ago, the worst thing you want for your favorite show is for it to become a hit.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Because it's going to get screwed.
That's why I want this podcast to stay small.
And I don't remember what the...
so far...
We don't want more
but not the paycheck.
Yeah.
What, is there a paycheck? Wait,
yeah.
Are you getting paid?
Yeah.
Far...
And alcohol.
Yeah, well, it's funny because Brian, he texted me. He said, I can't get out with the girls. Can you bring me some double A's? And so I stopped by and I pay $8 for batteries. And I get here and he's like, oh, I'll get you next week, bro.
So,
so basically we're your bitch because you're doing podcasts.
Yeah. So he's drank about $300 worth of alcohol.
And what have you brought to this? I bring snacks.
He did bring vermouth
and olives.
Was that sweet or dry?
Olives.
Sweet pickles.
Dry. Sweet or dry?
I have no idea.
Oh my!
I didn't stick my pinky in it. Shit, I don't know.
He did bring some crack in at one point, didn't he?
I just sprinkled some
crack. That was a house gift.
Oh,
that was a housewarming gift.
Indian giver.
Right. So then he goes, "That's $9, motherfucker," for his batteries when he first got here.
And it's funny because right before I left, because we had a big box of them, and if I knew I was going to get stiffed, I would have just reached in and grabbed a handful of double A's.
Yeah.
Here, bitch.
You buy those things in bulk at Costco, you know.
Well, he probably has the sex toy power station.
The sex toy power station.
That's right. This is the drawer we keep all of the sex toy batteries in. We want to make sure they have multiples of each size because you don't want to be like right in the middle of coitus. Big word alert!
Uh-oh.
And oh my god, the batteries died.
But you gotta watch batteries for that type of stuff. So I've heard.
I got a cousin named Coitus.
Rechargeables.
I got a cousin named Coitus. Does that count?
What sex toy has watch batteries in it?
Was it the little?
Yeah, Ron, tell us.
Because
I'm not aware of this.
That's just what I.
Please tell me this is not the bullet you currently have in your anus.
He sometimes puts a Benoit ball up there and it clinks around.
That's what South passed.
Sir,
South, get it?
Yeah.
Sir, your luggage was vibrating.
Hey, it's the dildo.
Yeah,
we don't like to refer to it as your dildo.
I thought those were like C batteries for that kind of stuff. Right?
What is that from?
I don't know.
That's Fight Club.
The dildo.
So this bullet Ron's carrying around, whenever he has a associated load of ass pennies, they sort of click, 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 click. Yeah. It's like playing pachinko in there.
So whenever Ron does anything bad, Ginger turns the remote off.
Right.
That's her disapproval. Signal for disapproval.
What did I do wrong?
You just
hide the batteries.
Ron's just sitting there doing something, and you see him go.
Needs to power down. So what I was going to say about BBC stuff, I think it even used to be more strict. Like they used to, like when they would commit to something, it was just five episodes. They didn't do, if I remember correctly, which is years back, they would only do 5 episodes and then they were done because they had no interest in getting tied up and stuff and tied up.
You got the giggles over here.
Yeah,
I'm still thinking about the last conversation.
And making these like seasonal commitments and year after year commitments, like there's a lot of from 80s and early 90s. There's only 5 or 6 episodes and they move on now.
So is it like a miniseries type of?
Sort of, but then they have like Luther that Greg was talking about the other day is 5 or 6 episodes a season, and Sherlock, the last season of Sherlock, I think is 3 episodes. Now they're an hour and a half. But they have no interest in doing 22 episodes of schlock. It's like, hey, let's boil it down to what's really good and do that, and then move on.
Now, do you think that's part of why they're changing? Is they're responding to
a little bit,
the
but
binge watching?
At the same
that
time,
people can watch. If you have 200 episodes of something that's middling to fair good.
Well, at the same time, they have a lot of series like Inspector Lewis. I think has 10 seasons, right? So there's
Inspector Louis Farrakhan.
Yeah, Louis Farrakhan.
That's the worst. That's the worst show.
Is that like a combination of that and Inspector Gadget?
Yeah, it's like Farrakhan is like, ooh, he's got all these stretchy arms and stuff. But I think it's Inspector Lewis. It has
Muslim-based.
9 or 10 seasons. But I think the big thing is for them, they can't get writers, producers, and actors to commit for 5 years of a show, because it's not a lot of money, right? So they're all in it for the art and to produce good content. Where in the U.S., if I make $1 million an episode, I'll do it for 10 years.
Well, and I think that you've noticed over the last 3, 4, 5 years how big name actors are now doing TV versus you would never see that.
Yeah, TV's the new Hollywood.
Years ago, that wasn't
in Kevin Spacey. Doing House of Cards, and it's obviously it's a remake. House of Cards is a British remake.
Yeah,
cha-ching. And the guys for True Detectives that you talked about, they're big, and I think that what's drawing them to it is that it's good shit to do, right?
It's quality of the content,
right?
They're not going in and doing the schlock that normally makes it on
guest star with Fonzie and Richie.
Who wants what is
Johnny
Or on the Love Boat?
Matthew McConaughey wants to come in for an episode of CSI Miami,
right?
Yeah. No, they want to come in and do good acting and do good work.
Well, and that's the lead actress in Orphan Black. She makes $50,000 per episode.
As well, she should.
She probably should.
Awesome.
Per character.
I made that same joke when I read that. I was like, for all 80 characters, she's really amazing.
And are you continuing to watch?
We're still watching.
Yeah,
she is really. That Russian is one crazy.
She's my. She's Ukrainian.
I love it.
She grows up in a Ukrainian.
Elena or Helena?
Ukrainian nuns, right?
Yeah. And the
episode where
I'm glad you stuck with that.
It's really good, dude.
Yeah,
y'all were, and she is amazing. And Nikki thought she was English because she said her accent sounded English.
No,
and Nikki is really hard because she's English. She knows, like, sometimes I'm like, that's pretty good, and she. That's not cool. It's no good.
But everything she does is spot on.
Yeah,
like she seems like really, and I don't know anything about her, but I don't feel like naturally she can go do and perfect an English accent. I feel like she's probably so dedicated that they brought in a coach and she worked her ass off to say and pronounce things correctly.
Did you know prior to this she has 10 years experience in improv theater?
Yeah,
so that
totally makes sense.
Very telling. And it's just something about, I know suddenly we veered back into that show, but it's so good. The production
BBC?
values, I was looking,
BBC America.
I was looking at the production values on the episodes when they're having to shoot separate takes, like the shot where it's a take outside of the vehicle,
right?
And they're having to composite her in there, and then they do a rack focus, shifting the focus from one character back to the front character of both the same actress, and it's seamless.
Technically, it is so difficult, and like that's something I pick up on in all these kind of things where they sort of hodgepodge a scene together because of something like this. And typically, I'm so like with the rack focuses or the editing or they had to do that particular shot because of whatever to hide stuff. They don't hide anything.
They're not. They'll have 3 of them in the scene. They'll have a moving camera. It looks really good, and I'm very. And I work in that industry.
I can't imagine how technically difficult that rack focus back and forth is between 2 people that aren't there.
Yeah.
To get that.
What are you calling it?
A rack focus is when your eyes normally naturally do it, but you can't tell because your eyes do it so fast. So when you go from something that's near to you to something that's far, your
focus on the microphone, then focus on Paul.
And individually, those 2 things in that linear sight will become focused or unfocused depending on when you're doing it, and it's flawless.
Yeah, and I noticed that in that scene I was watching last night, and it looks seamless, and it's really high production value.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, and that's your homework now. So you have to be able to come back next week and be able to explain.
I got to do a book report on.
Yeah, focus in, dolly out. Okay. That's what you have to do next week. That's a Hitchcock. If you watch Hitchcock, that was one of his famous ends, focus in, dolly out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's technically so difficult. Her acting is so flawless in those scenes, going back and forth between the characters. As I'm watching that, I'm distracted sometimes by how difficult it must be to do it.
Amazing it is.
And I don't think you're probably far enough. I think it's in season 2. There's 4 of them in a scene.
We just finished season 1 last night.
Okay, yeah, I think it's halfway through season 2 or early on in season 2. In the apartment where her gay friend lives.
Yeah, her brother.
Your brother. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Half brother, I guess.
Well, a foster brother.
Yeah, it's like
foster brother.
It's like Sarah, the soccer mom, the dreads,
and then
chick, and
Elena shows up.
Yeah, and it's like, holy cow, they're all in the scene together.
Well, I love that. I know, and Elena, the more I think about that, the more I'm so glad they didn't kill her off earlier, which I kept thinking that they were going to. Yeah. When she shows up at the hospital and she's like at the check-in station.
Slow down.
I'm not going to give it away.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to give it away. But the look and the acting and what she says, I was just like, that's perfect. It's like 10 words, and that's perfect. So yeah, but so they've slowly loosened up where they'll do more seasons. They do things. They've actually Inspector Lewis, which is one of their famous shows, and it's aimed at your 40, 50-year-olds. They've gone back and now relaunched that.
You mean us?
Yeah. I was going to say that's us.
Well, 40, 50-year-olds probably 10 or 15 years ago.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So even for us, it's kind of a little lame of the show when you watch it. But now they've gone back and kind of rebooted that character when he was in his just getting onto the police force. And that show is called Endeavor. And I'll have to do a whole segment on that because it's really, really good.
Yeah. I think one of the longest running...
Phenomenal.
One of the longest running characters for BBC, Doctor Who, of course.
Right.
And it's been through so many incarnations and has such a huge fan base. And it just got revitalized, a few years back with
Dude, that's a nerd alert for me. That title, that name,
Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that the first
it's an acquired taste. I tried to get
years
into it.
Are very teen to early 20 guy focused. In the reboot
Nerds.
and the last probably 5 or 6 years, it's not nearly as bad, but it's still kind of a nerdy thing.
And it's cult favorite.
And it's spun off. They've done a lot of spun offs like Torchwood and some of the other stuff. Warehouse 13, I think, is another one that they have that's kind of in that genre.
Very X-Files-y.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm totally out of drinks, so I think we should make more drinks.
Okay, are we still recording?
42 minutes in, we're still recording.
Oh, my goodness. We're doing well.
Sweet.
Brian checks to see. Is it still
Check
going?
yourself before we wreck yourself.
How's the rest of that song go?
I do not remember.
Something.
Yeah.
Rat testicles.
43 minutes. Thanks for listening to that segment of the Binge Watch Podcast. You can find us online at www.bingewatchpodcast.com, on Twitter at BingeWatchPC, and on YouTube and Facebook by searching for Binge Watch Podcast.
Thanks, honey.
Sure.
Appreciate
anytime.
that.
I'm sitting here looking at Facebook.
Oh yeah, I'm the originator of the eye pooping because I would go. I've always read.
Okay, let's talk about what this is really about. It's the only time that I can get away from anybody and have seriously.
Yeah.
Come on.
Either Scarlett needs something, you got to clean something up for Scarlett. Ron's looking for sex. I mean, I would imagine just it's a bit of a retreat from the real world.
Can a woman just sit here, check her email, and take a deuce?
Basically, yeah.
Thank you, Paul.
Ron, bring me the handy wipes.
She's got those on the back of the toilet, Paul.
Yeah, there's part of my back I can't reach. You're gonna have to help me.
Scarlett!
Ron has to come in a hazmat suit. Okay, meanwhile, we're gonna have to stick you in the shower. I pooped everywhere. I poop, you poop, we poop. God bless, woman.
Ron, do you remember how the Lawton store, the video store, was set up where the bathroom was right by my office? Right.
Yeah.
So
you're a flush every now and then.
Well, do you remember? I had one of my music manager. His name was Heath, and he would just be in there forever. And then he'd come out. He'd kind of walk funny. And he'd be like, "Man, that was a bad one, dude. I had to wipe my entire back on that. It was so bad."
Well, I swear to God, where I'm currently working at now, like three out of the 5 days of the week, so at some point in the morning in the men's upstairs bathroom, somebody tries to shatter into the porcelain on the back of that bowl. They go in there and I'm like, what? Just woo, Lysol.
It's bad news. It's bad
horrible.
news.
It's horrible. And I mean, you can flush like 10 times and the Jackson Pollock on the back of the toilet does not flush away. It's like, good God.
You're going and pulling the fire alarm. Just like, somebody come clean this up.
It looks like somebody had fuzzy tacos yesterday or something. Woo.
Yeah. We are disgusting creatures.
I'm serious, man. It's a little work. I'm thinking about taking like high res photographs and like putting it up in an art gallery. It's like fecal number 3.
So I'm gonna. I don't want to stay on the scatological tip for 45 minutes, but I'm gonna tell you guys a story, and it's totally true.
Isn't that a band name? Scatological tip.
Well, I wrote a blog entry one time called "Scatological Love Affair."
Oh no.
Yeah, but that's not what this is about. So I used to work with a guy, and this is many moons ago, back before cameras on phones, and really the only instant camera you had, and this has been about 97, 98, somewhere in there, was Polaroids.
Yeah,
right.
So this guy's name was Shay. I won't give his last name in case anyone ever listens to this that knows this guy. But he would take the Polaroid into the bathroom with him, and when he was done, he would take a picture. And you would be working at your desk, and he would just walk by, not say a word, and just slide it onto your desk. And you're working away, and you go, dude, what, why? That's twice this week you've done this to me. What did I do to piss you off?
So there's a current, the current thing is people who are foodies where they take a picture of their meal before. He was just a couple hours. Time shifted. Here's what I had for breakfast yesterday.
He was behind the times, yet ahead of the times.
He was a booty foodie.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And he would do it to everybody at work. He just didn't care.
Yeah.
Almost every day.
Was he straight faced when he?
Yeah. No, he would just. You didn't know what was up, and no one around you would know what's going on. He would just like walk by, put it on your desk, so it's right in front of your keyboard where you're looking, and you're like, dude, what the fuck?
Would he say anything?
As an HR person, Ginger, you would have had to deal with him on a regular basis.
Like,
would he say anything to you when he did that?
Nope. He'd just go sit down.
And Brad's sitting here saying, "Why does this guy keep on showing me pictures of his soft serve ice cream that
it wasn't
ladling out there in the toilet?"
It wasn't just me. It was lots of other people at work.
It was like a cat that brings you their kill. Like to be proud of it. Like, well, here, look what I got.
Well, you know how
he was proud of it.
You know how a lot of stores will have the community bulletin board where you can put up cards and stuff. You just put a Polaroid
of his Jackson Pollock.
Yeah,
right.
This is some scary stuff. This is spaghetti with lots of rolls.
Yep.
You can tell I like cheese.
Yeah. This is 5 pounds of cheese I had this morning
for breakfast.
Then it would be the bowl would be empty.
I just ate it with an ice cream scoop out of the bag.
Yeah.
So Ron, did you bring anything you wanted to talk about? Ginger, you got stuff you want to talk about?
Yeah.
I'll let the lady go first.
So Paul, that's you.
Yeah. Sit down, Ginger.
The bearded lady then. Yeah. Paul and I kind of talked about this via text yesterday, and everybody here knows that I love music. I mean, that's really my passion. While I love movies and TV and all that, but my true passion is music. So
that's why I married her.
That's why. So
Brian's just shaking his head.
I know. We shouldn't go there. So, and I know at some point that we would be able to talk about this, but I always thought, and you and I have discussed how we could kind of transition some of that into some of our conversations. So I told Paul that I had this idea about how music in TV shows and movies placed on a soundtrack or whatever can really launch an artist's career, and how it can influence maybe even your readiness or your willingness to watch a TV show.
Yeah, that I was when we was texting about it. That is so true.
Because if you think about it, because once you start thinking about it, you think of all the theme songs or music that you've heard that you've really liked, and you may not have ever heard that artist or known about them until you watched.
Well, what's become, it's super interesting you say that, because what's become a little bit of a go-to in a lot of these shows is the last 4 minutes of a TV show is a kind of the musical montage, where they've built up everything that they need to talk verbally to you or dialogue wise, and they're going to move the story along without any character talking. And they do that in that musical montage piece. And there's some shows that do that really successfully, in my opinion, and there's some shows that do that really poorly, in my opinion.
Well, you can probably thank Michael Mann for that, starting with Miami Vice.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the earliest I could remember it. But I do think, I think in probably the last 7 to 8 years, it's become kind of a go-to. There's been some, because of the shows that have been.
Well, I think it's more from a music marketing.
Oh, absolutely. Because an artist's dream is to get a song in a movie or whatever, especially a new artist, somebody who's trying to get established.
Well, for sure, but I think and I'll use the example of Sons of Anarchy. This is a very big thing for them, and it's not a marketing piece. It's not anything else other than Kurt believes that you can watch the characters do stuff, but if you have good music playing, it takes it to another level, right?
Absolutely.
So every song that they pick for their musical montage outro piece, which generally Sons of Anarchy would end on, is something that's pretty close to the emotions he's trying to express on the television, right? So it's not really so.
And that's what Michael Mann would do with his music.
For sure. Mm-hmm. But there's been 4 or 5 shows, I think, over the last probably 7 or 8 years that have really kind of taken this to the next level, where Michael Mann, I mean, every movie and show he's ever done has had that huge tie-in with the music,
right?
It sets the atmosphere,
sets the mood, the theme, the atmospherics, and all that.
But now, if you listen to, there's a ton of websites that are dedicated just to the music that's featured on Sons of Anarchy, and I've Googled a couple of those because I go, damn, that song's good,
right?
And I've never heard of this band, and it's not. I don't think at all in Kurt Sutter's mind is he ever think like, hey, I'm going to break this band, or this is a marketing thing. I think he hears some music and he's like, he
likes it and thinks it would fit that.
The emotional content that I'm trying to portray during this, because there's generally a lot of at the end of those episodes they've showed you violence, and they really want to humanize. I feel like on the outro, a lot of the times he wants to humanize these people, and he'll show you like them holding their babies or spending time with their friends, with a song overlay. And I do think that the combination of the two takes it to the next level. Much like irony takes two things to come together to create a third, the music does as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's just recently, I guess within the past few months, somebody took all of John Williams' music off of the end of the original Star Wars movie. the big ceremony with where they're.
And it's terrible.
It is so awkward.
I know.
Without that music, it is, and of course they took out the music and they added some very subtle, like people clearing throats and sound effects and stuff. Very subtle,
so boring.
But it was really awkward. And like the Mick Jagger, David Bowie music video, they took out the music and it just showed them flailing around with no sound. And it's like, who are these old awkward dudes?
I just watched a video on Facebook this week where it was a bunch of rave kids, gothic rave kids, like doing their rave gothic thing, like in some abandoned place, they're being all cool, and they had overlaid some silly song on it. Did you see that?
Yeah,
what was the song?
I can't remember. The first thing that popped in my mind was like My Little Pony theme song or something.
Was it My Little Pony?
It may have been. That's the first thing that popped in my mind. It was so
awesome because it, again, the like, if let me think of film theory here, the juxtaposition and all that stuff between like what you think should be there. Intellectual montage is what the Russians called it in their film theory. It's like what those different parts come together and create a greater thing in your head. It's funny that you mention John Williams because I was just watching for the first time in probably a couple of years Return of the Dark Knight this morning before you guys came over. I had it on while I was cooking and cleaning for the kids and everything. And the utilization of music in that is so well done that I was thinking the same thing. Like if this music wasn't here and, Nolan was not a big music believer and all that stuff, what would these scenes be like? They're fight scenes and they're different scenes from around the Gotham or whatever. However, with the music, it emotionally tied it all together so well that I felt like I was caught. I've seen this movie 10 times, but emotionally I felt caught up in it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so tragic. And then I was thinking like what John Williams did for Star Wars, and if that music wasn't there, what would I be watching this scene and thinking? And I'm pretty sure,
would it have been as memorable?
No, it would not have been.
Or like Jaws, what would it be without John Williams' music there? With the Jaws.
But even more so, how much does kind of on the flip side of that? How much does music influence your willingness to watch something? Like if there's a show that you kind of are on the fence on, but the music continues to expose you to bands you've never heard of or music that you probably would never have heard of before. Right. Would that coax you into watching it again and again? And
I don't know that it's like a conscious thing. Right. Like I know that there's probably previews to TV shows and movies that I see all the time that based on the music doesn't catch me, the title doesn't catch me, and I'm out. It could be great. I don't know. What was the MIDI? Remember when MIDI was real popular with Atari and all that?
Right.
There's so many intro things for TV shows that I feel like they're just overlaying some cheap MIDI music on. Yeah, and it's terrible.
Well, I actually have there's a lot of great movies, especially, but even TV where the music I can remember thinking, oh, this is good music. But the last TV show and time when I remember Shazamming, because we all use Shazam. I mean, how great is that app? Do you guys Shazam much?
Occasionally.
We do it.
Do you know?
All the time.
Oh yeah, we do. I do it a lot.
Yeah, we used it the other night.
So what is
only during sex? Occasionally, I'll jump up and go Shazam.
Okay, so Shazam is the app where you just hit a button and put it close to the music source, and it recognizes within probably 30 to 45 seconds. It will
sometimes sooner than that. Sometimes
it will recognize the artist and the song.
It gives you the artist and song title of whatever it hears.
If you're using an iPhone, because it directs you to iTunes immediately, so you could purchase it right there. But that's how you find out a lot of music if you didn't know who it was or whatever. So I went through the iPhone to see the last time I did this for a TV show or whatever, and it was again going back to True Detectives. Have you guys heard of Handsome Family? That's the artist that
he played that song on the in the podcast too.
Yeah, was it podcast 2?
Yeah.
2.
So, I mean, would I have ever been exposed to that artist? Probably not.
Well, there were several songs in that series that we Shazammed. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. What is this?
So, and that opens because I think they're kind of a specific genre. They're not your typical alt country or bluegrass kind of, which is big right now. Kind of that alternative bluegrass.
Yeah, but it's kind of like
My Morning Jacket.
No,
there's the kind of alternative.
They can be, but not. I don't compare.
It's kind of like murder country.
But it's a whole different little bit.
Based on the sound of it.
That's Ron's description, not mine.
Welcome to murder country.
Anyway, so I think it exposed me.
Do you listen to that while you're?
I think in Texas we call that Wise County.
Yeah,
right. So anyway,
true crime alt country.
So that's my tie-in to what we're talking about today: is music in film and TV and how it can expose an artist and expose people to music you would never hear of.
Do you think you're seeing more of this now because of social media and that it's always been there to a certain extent, but now people can like you said with Shazam, they can so quickly access.
Yeah, before you'd have
things.
to do an internet search or something like who knows what this song was on this TV show at this time, and people start taking guesses. But now you can Shazam.
Yeah, I think there's more of it now. I think people, and I kind of disagree with what Brian said. I think people, writers, producers, whoever finds the music for a TV show or whatever, I think they go seek out lesser known artists at times.
I don't know that they're lesser known because they're not pop, right? Because pop is shit.
And they're also less of a royalty. You can get a lesser known artist. It's cheaper, or you can get it for free. They're like, oh yeah, we'll let you have it for exposure. To help us promote our music.
I think
they just like what they like, and
in my mind, and they are lesser known, but I feel like that they're generally more genuine musicians than the pop. Why would they? Oh, hey, dude, we're gonna do our outro with Taylor Swift.
They're not like a manufactured act,
right? If there's somebody that's out there and they do their gig and they're doing it because that's the music and they want to give them exposure. I don't doubt that at all. That they pick that out, but I think I really have to go back to Kurt Sutter because he talks a lot about this. But it's stuff he's listening to that's not well known.
True that.
That when he's listening to it, he's like he connects to it on an emotional level, and he goes, "Man, that would be great in this one episode of whatever That's Paul walking out of the room to go eye poop."
He's either choking the chicken, draining the lizard, or something, or checking on his kid.
Please not be choking the chicken.
Let's keep moving on.
So there's some TV series and shows that do this really poorly, and I want to say I'll have to look his name up. Is that David Voorhees guy that does
Jason Voorhees?
No, not the late killer dude. Jason Voorhees, David Voorhees. God, what's his Big Bones? They do horrible music montages all the time.
They do poppy stuff or
they probably did get it cheap, but it still sounds poppy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Bones is a very good example of this, but there's a lot of that musical montage stuff it's just terrible. That is the quickest poop anyone's ever taken, Paul.
I saw one sleep by.
Oh, so. Yeah, it done really well. That piece does. And what I was thinking though earlier is, music wise, when I was watching The Dark Knight Rising, it's what is all in the background that we don't even know that some musician has slaved away forever to accomplish that and make you feel the mood that you're actually feeling in that scene or on that TV series or whatever that you never know because it's not a song per se that you're ever going to hear on the radio or whatever. But I do think it's a third of the shows that I'm attracted to. I feel like the music and all that stuff is about a third of what I find entertaining about it.
Yeah, and different shows have used music different ways. I remember, there'd be some music and stuff even Lost, and it'd either be, them the dude down the hatch, he was playing music on his record player or whatever, or the people of the others, back in their little bungalows, would be, might be playing something, or it'd be in a flashback or something,
Right.
But they would use it, certain songs here and there. Use it more, since it's time period stuff, flashing back in time. That it was, stuff older, pieces of music. But.
Well, and especially if you have any type of show that has utilizes a flashback for whatever reason, especially if it's time specific, like
right.
you're talking
Music
about.
Sets the time. Yeah.
You can instantly connect people to what era, or how many years ago, just by something that was popular during that time. Like 80s music, people know. Oh, okay, 80s.
Well, for sure, and also that it sets the time period immediately. Like
Hot
I
Tub
can tell
Time
you,
Machine.
Exactly. I could probably tell you exactly where I was the first time I heard U2's Sunday Bloody Sunday, Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. All that stuff kind of sets that tone too. But the other thing that I find interesting, and really I think maybe I probably thought this before, but with me going back and discovering, I am totally infatuated with Fleetwood Mac now. Like half of my music listening when the kids aren't listening is Fleetwood Mac. Don't say a fucking word about it.
About Stevie Nicks.
The
thing is, she loves Fleetwood Mac, actually. She loves Lindsey Buckingham. And
dude, Lindsey is so... He's probably one of
the... She loves Christine McVie.
I know, but you got to take the good with the bad. You got to take the good with the bad.
Come on, Ginger. I know you don't like Stevie Nicks, but without her, there would be no Fleetwood Mac.
And back in the day, she was smoking.
Oh, and her voice. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Just suck it up, soldier.
But with the release of Guardians of the Galaxy,
a small seizure over there.
I know. Put your belt in her mouth. Put your belt in her mouth.
That's not your belt.
With the whole like the soundtrack for Guardians in the Galaxy, like how much cool music was back then that you write off because fuck it, it's the 70s and it was dumb. That's good. I like that Guardian. Every time we watch that movie, the kids are paying attention to all the stuff, and I'm just listening to the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Well, and just you talk about just when a movie or a show intentionally brings out a Walkman, and you immediately, okay, I know what that era was. And it took me forever when MP3 players first hit the scene for me to stop calling them Walkmans.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When the first iPod came out, my Walkman.
Sometimes it's
no, that's not a Walkman.
Sometimes it's just cool, kind of not necessarily a timepiece. Like last night, we watched that latest Bill Murray movie, Saint Vincent. Really good movie, and
it looks fantastic. And that I feel like is his genre right now. That old crotchety old
it's
man.
Kind of,
but
it's kind of a different, an older, him older, but it's kind of like that kind of got that kind of cool indie Lost in Translation kind of feel, to it. In a different way, but he uses a Walkman, and there's some scenes in there where he's like sitting down with headphones and a Walkman, actually with a cassette Walkman. Which is awesome.
Every time I see a Walkman, because I loved my Walkman when I had it I go out on long runs and stuff, and you'd have to flip the tape, but I didn't have the one that played both sides,
right?
And so I'm running and have to flip the tape, and it's just such. It's that nostalgia for that type of, and Sony's apparently making Walkmans again. Original Walkmans are
after
like
they
$1,000.
made a huge announcement that we're never going to make another Walkman again. That was the death of the Walkman. But like I think of all of that, like who gives a shit whether the music you listen to is on tape, Laserdisc, some implanted thing in your brain. Right? It's all about, there's some type of emotional content that's related to that then is overlaid on what you're watching on the TV show. And I really do think that music, whether it's the mood setting music within the TV show or the songs that are played and all that type of stuff, is really, really by a lot of people in TV totally overlooked. And then it's super paid attention. Like the opening scene for the Bosch, this is what I really like about most TV shows now. They do about 4 minutes, 5 minutes of it's just the show, and then they play their scene, right? And it's at some natural kind of break where then it resets you to what you're watching and the experience you're involved in. But Bosch has a great one because they pay particular attention to the music, and the visuals are super cool. Like I think it's the closest thing that I've seen visually that reminds me of Michael Mann and what he did with damn damn it, what was in Heat? Visually how that looked.
Right.
And then what was his the movie that he did? It was the first all digital shot with Top Gun.
Was it Legend?
No. It was
Vanilla Sky.
No, it was the Hitman. I'm flying into L.A. I got 24 hours to go.
Was it Collateral Damage?
I think that's what it was called, but it was the first all digital
him and Jamie
camera
Foxx.
shot from beginning to end. Right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
But visually, he's going for something, and it's both of those are set in L.A. Bosch is set in L.A., and Bosch has a phenomenal deal where they do this like reverse field, like half the screen is the city, and then the other half of the scene is the reflection of that city, and it creates this weird Michael Mann and Inception looking thing as he's driving through the city. So they pay particular attention to visually what does that piece of the opening look like, and then the music that's playing, because it's setting a tone. Your mind is kind of getting into what's going to happen for the next 35 minutes or whatever the show is going to last.
Right.
But it surprises me how many TV producers or whatever just disregard all of that stuff.
Well, that's what I like about the title music for Orphan Black is it's very Alice falling down the rabbit hole type trippy Tim Burton-y type.
Was that right? There's a band of the name that does that, Two Fingers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the musical group.
I'm not as familiar with them as.
Yeah,
but definitely, the opening titles like for that show, Orphan Blacks, it sets the.
But not only theme songs, but I mean, because a lot of times at the end credits, they'll actually put a different. I mean, there's a theme song, and then there's an end credit song or something that is inserted somewhere in the show that you would never have heard before.
Yeah. Yeah,
it completely draws you in.
Yeah, what was it the other night we were watching?
Mad Men does that particularly well.
Right.
Mad Men, old 60s stuff there.
Yeah.
Well, the other night we were watching Orange is the New Black and the.
Oh yeah.
Are you guys done with season 2?
No. We're still
in season 1.
Still season
you guys
1.
Kill me
We're
with your fucking
trying
slowness.
we're doing the Pacific as well,
Yep.
so it's every other night.
Has the violence ratcheted up for you?
No, because we just got out.
Have they attacked the airport yet?
No.
Okay.
We just got the one where the dudes put the.
For a second, I thought he was talking about Orange is the New Black. I was like, I don't remember them attacking the airport.
Orange is the New Black is hardcore.
We attacked the airport.
No, the Pacific one we last watched was the one where he spends the couple weeks.
Oh, when he goes back stateside?
No, back on the other island. Or back on,
I want some steak.
Yeah. But no, it was on Orange is the New Black, they had that. Where it was Crazy Eyes peas in the floor in front of her.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit.
No. It wasn't the S word. It's the F word. Remember?
Oh yeah, I guess it was.
Yeah.
Nothing like marking your territory.
It's a good show, and so like with Orange is a New Black, and I think so. Here's I read an article.
You did
last week about not Orange is a New Black, but about the Kevin Spacey series,
House of Cards.
House of Cards, and it was talking about story fatigue,
right?
And how all these are fairly conceptual stories that they, again, with the American hit theory of, like, if Orange is the New Black, it stays popular, they'll make 20 episodes a season for 10 seasons.
Right.
Not that it needs that amount of time to tell a good story, right?
They could cut it off in 3, 4.
Right, and move on and do something else.
Well, that ties back to what we had discussed before about, everybody lamenting Firefly not going beyond 13.
Right.
And I think it's perfect.
That's the beauty of it. That's the Jimi Hendrix of it.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe it didn't need more.
Yeah. Morrison didn't need the time he needed except for the time he got, right?
Yeah.
So and that's where they're talking like House of Cards, like the guys in season 3's president. The entire 1 and 2 is about his insatiable desire, political desire to move to that. And and I haven't read really anything beyond titles on this because I just tried to start season 3 last night. I got 10 minutes into it and I was like, it's not hooking me. So I went and watched something else. But a lot of these Orange and the New Black, House of Cards, like the whole thing is like, can they continue a story season after season that wasn't meant to be that long?
Yeah. Well, and I'm still watching Better Call Saul. I can't say that I'm as impressed with it as I was with Breaking Bad. You take something man, we have got to spin this off. Money.
Right.
And it's like, I'm not convinced yet. I'm going to keep going with it because it's not like that Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. It's better than that, thank God. But, it's like from the first 2 episodes of that Unbreakable show that we was talking about, I cannot imagine them. Who suckered them into doing a 2-season deal? They must have got that thing for a song just to write it off their books. Because I thought it was a turd.
Which one?
Maybe
Unbreakable. Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe it's that's how Tina Fey got on board. That's how they're marketing it.
No, I'm sure without knowing anything about it, never even heard of it. I'm sure it's a writer friend of hers that she said, "Yeah, I'll put my name on it." And then it got a lot of steam behind it because, oh my God, Tina Fey's involved. It's going to be 30 Rock too. And then it's 30 Rock -5.
Yeah, like I said before before we wrapped up the first bit before drinks, I'd really be interested in seeing what y'all thought of it. Maybe I was just
I'll commit to, and you may have to text me to remind me this later, to watching at least one episode of it to just if I can concur that it's shit.
It's 24 minutes of pain.
It's you put that official seal of approval on there.
Yeah, because
hear that, listeners, you need to go out and get 24 minutes.
That becomes the official thumbs down of the show, is if it's 24 minutes of pain.
We should have
it's no Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Unbreakable.
The Unbreakable.
It's no Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, but
it sucks even worse.
You may have the podcast title here: 24 minutes of pain.
I like it.
Rat nuts.
You had
rat nuts and 24 minutes of pain.
I give it, out of 5 rat nuts, I gave it 1.5 rat nuts.
It's like the Hustler hard-on thing for like their.
That's good.
It's 3/4
That's only a half rat nut for
this
me.
one is a total limp dick.
I didn't even have a chub, not even a semi.
That's funny.
Yeah, rat nuts.
I think I have, because 6 months ago, as a big Sons of Anarchy fan, I did try to dig into the music side because it's so music heavy. But it is such a it's so difficult for me to keep up with the TV shows that I watch and who's doing what and all that stuff, that I felt like if I brought in the music side of it, I would be completely bogged down with a bunch of stuff. I couldn't get to anything because it's a super in-depth part of this whole thing. But there's no way I could keep up with it.
You know what's another movie that I always think when I think about music and how it played a part in the movie is Hannibal. Silence of the Lambs.
I was going to say Throw Mama from the Train, but I didn't think he was going.
Well, music has become such a big thing, even if it's just the background to what you're doing. Like Paul came over earlier last week, and I was in the middle of a dungeon run.
Right.
For World of Warcraft. So I turned the music up and I said...
Nerd alert.
It's super nerd alert.
Yeah, way nerd alert.
But the new thing that they've come out with is full orchestral things that they've spent a gazillion dollars on. And I love orchestra, symphony, opera, all that. So
when I was watching him play, he turned up, like you said, he turned up the music. I was like, because I haven't played in a while, I was like, wow,
it's full-blown symphony music that was made and done just for that particular dungeon that you're running. And every dungeon has its own music, every zone has its own music, and they put so much thought process into it that there's a particular, I don't remember the song or whatever, but it's about how the orcish race has been so put upon and they've been killed and slaughtered and whatever, that he kept the musicians going at this particular song for 10 or 12 hours until they were so mad that they're about to walk out of the room. And he's like, now we record. You know what I mean?
Once they got done and they was finally satisfied, he said, I didn't hit record. Oh,
bitches.
He wanted that emotion in there.
Yeah, he wanted them to be so angry when they played the song that when you listen to it back in a video game, that the anger of the characters that you're seeing do the thing is portrayed in the music, right? And if you go in 10 years of where World of Warcraft came out to where it is now, it's gone from ding 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 ding, kind of arcadey type music to full blown symphonies that are playing the music for that. So I do feel like across all mediums, they get it. That elevates it, right? It is good actors, good writing, good directors. And if it's really good music on top of that, it becomes this ethereal other type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that goes with really top-notch editing, good music choices. If you have a great performance from actors, great script, great performance, you're only plussing it out by making it the full rounded experience.
Right. And if I feel like if any way that American TV could benefit, it would be with good editors.
Yes.
And good second directors, man. I can tell when a scene is shot with a second director because, like, let's say there's two characters facing each other and talking. American TV is going to be over-the-shoulder shots down, over-the-shoulder shots up.
Yeah.
Back and forth as the dialogue goes on, where any other country or whatever, their TV is going to be, there's going to be some establishing work that they'll reference back and forth. There's going to be some weird through a window look and all this other stuff that really kind of adds to whatever's going on.
How you compose the frame. If you have just straight back and forth,
it's
cross-cutting,
so boring.
And if you don't, that's why if they have a two-camera setup,
right?
You have it recording on while somebody's talking instead of showing them talking. Have that other camera go on so you can see cut in some reactions of what is being said to the other person.
And I don't need to see the camera pushed up on this person's face.
No. Find an interesting angle.
Yes.
Compose it. Find weird compositions.
Show me a composition, an angle that somehow enhances what's going on.
Yeah.
Like if it's, I'm thinking of a show I watched not too long ago where it was a pretty intense scene in a very enclosed space inside of a barn. So the shots were outside of the barn, in through a window, and it built the tension of these people being in a small space where they slowly moved into them rather than just the back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And you're like, oh, I'm getting dizzy with the reversible feel. But it was like all this compositional work that was gone into like elevate the scene. It wasn't the greatest scene in the world, but it definitely felt different as the editing and the composition built up. And, an editor only has to work with what the director delivers them. Hey, here's what we shot. Edit it as best it can be done. Yeah.
Well, you can never underestimate the importance of having storyboarded out the sequences and the action, and the blocking before, because it's just on paper. You can do it again and again and throw it away, and it's very cheap.
But I think
if you don't have interesting storyboard angles and storytelling, if it's not interesting on board, it's not going to be interesting with the actors.
But I think that's missing from most TV.
Yes, they skimp on that, or they
put a thing there, put a thing there, and let's shoot this as cheaply as possible and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, it is much better to spend a huge amount of pre-planning time blocking it out against really edit your track to have a lot of people discount pregnant pauses between people talking. It's just jabber, 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 nonstop. Shows like Parenthood that drive me crazy, where everybody in the scene is talking over each other just constantly.
Well, Castle, which I love, is the same way. Their absolutely hate that. Dialogue-wise, there is almost zero downtime.
That would wear me out.
Line, all the way through the show. And there's no pauses, no nothing. As soon as one line is delivered, another line is picked up. But it's, number one, they're trying to sell a certain amount of pacing and kind of fake up the action by the dialogue pacing.
Right.
And they realize that they're not working. I feel like the writers do, or the directors or editors, they feel like they're not working with a lot, so they got to just jam everything in there. But yeah, I totally noticed that there's no pauses between dialogue. It's the second one dialogue A stops, dialogue B is right on top of it.
Yeah, and I think it's for me, it's about pacing more than anything. Is that you can do that, but you got to give people a break, a sonic break. And don't be scared
as a viewer,
let nothing be happening and just let
as
people
a viewer,
look at it.
Can you absorb what's going on if there's never a second for you to stop and think? I don't think so.
Yeah,
process what you've just seen.
Yeah, and I think that's I think a lot of people discount allowing that being part of the storytelling process. Is let the viewer just look at what is being laid out in front of them. And you don't have to spoon feed them everything. Let them not know what's going on for a little bit. Or let them totally know what's going on, and then the protagonist doesn't know what's going on. Let the audience be, I know what's going on.
Let the scene transition.
Yeah.
Like figure it out and go with it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we make some more drinks, and you have something you want to chat about?
You need another drink? I think I'm still good. You don't?
No, I'm good.
Well, I do need a drink. I'm done. And it's
Need?
about
And if Brian doesn't have a drink,
deserve. I feel like I deserve.
Don't you have a big oak barrel full of Jack Daniels that you
On the
wanna
way?
go-
yeah, where's this
go-
$9,000 barrel of?
It's on its way from
Gentleman Jack?
Sam's Club.
Brian gets into a giant hefty bag, ties it up to his neck, and just dips down into.
So when I read that
I'm
article,
a
it said
teabag.
Sam's Club now allows you to purchase full barrel of Jack Daniels. I was like,
No,
that's
Gentleman
interesting.
Jack.
Gentleman Jack. Well, it didn't tell you that until you clicked on it.
No.
And then it's Gentleman Jack. I was like, this is going to be pricier than I thought. And I don't know how many gallons it is, but it's that full wine cask. I mean, I would think that holds 50 gallons.
How much
least,
for the pony keg?
$9,644 or something like that. It's pretty insane. And then I was like, is that saving money? Losing money?
He's trying to work out how many bottles is it.
Yeah.
Am I getting a volume discount?
Can alcohol evaporate over? I guess it could.
Yes, it can. Yes,
Yeah.
it can. It does.
Yeah.
And it does. It's got to have a seal
It's
on it.
open. Yeah.
It's a volatile chemical that evaporates like
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
All right, let's make some drinks and we'll be back. Thanks for listening to that segment of the Binge Watch Podcast. You can find us online at www.bingewatchpodcast.com, on Twitter at BingeWatchPC, and on YouTube and Facebook by searching for Binge Watch Podcast.
Everybody.
Like you ate jalapenos the night before.
Like,
As I told Ron, I didn't remember eating corn.
When's the last time I had corn?
when did I have corn?
Yeah, it's Jackson Pollock time.
Yep.
Time to
FYI, I love it when you guys say stuff and you think I'm not recording. Now Ron owes them $42,000.
No.
I truly don't give a fuck. Not a single fuck.
So is this the opening scene from Office Space? And you're just going to slink down and roll your window up?
It wasn't me. All right, so in the piece that we recorded earlier today, I really like.
Turn that shit off, Ron.
Darn that
You just cost
That
Brian.
that was the ending music in the.
His name is Ron. If you need payment, let me know and I'll get you hooked up with him.
That was the. We should give him a little pub
What? Yeah,
there.
what is that?
That was from the ending scene
Boss.
in. Yeah, that was by Boss,
Right.
and that was the I don't give a F.
Okay.
F
So
asterisk K.
I talked a little. I just want to
said.
plug this really quickly because it was in the recording that we didn't snag earlier. And then if you have anything to talk about, we can definitely transition. So I watched one episode. It is called American Crime. It is on ABC's on Thursdays at 9 Central. It stars Timothy Hutton, who I have not seen in anything that I thought was any good in probably 20 years.
It's Taps.
Since Taps in the Top Gun guy, and they were
Great movie.
doing their stuff. And then Felicity Huffman.
Goose.
What was she in? Oh, Desperate Housewives.
Yeah,
I never.
right.
But Sports Night is where I know her from.
You know who she's married to?
No, I don't.
Ingve-
William H. Macy.
Oh,
Is she?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Is she?
I was going to say Ingve
Oh, here's
Malmsteen.
Yeah. And,
Wow, that's obscure.
I want to see him in a duel with Guy Man Dude, who is the other blah, 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 guitar player from
Guy
that.
Man Doo-Doo.
But I know her from Sports Night, which if you haven't seen that, fucking good. fucking. It's like ESPN with all that stuff. Dude gets sick, like Benson gets sick during. I don't know. Is Robert Goulet? Is that his name?
You said Benson.
No,
I was like,
all right, now I got to click over here, and it's Robert Guillaume. Whatever.
Yeah, Robert
Giuliani.
Guillaume. Yeah, that's it.
He's the mayor's son, Giuliani.
Benson.
But wasn't he on Benson?
Yes, I just never did. I think we would ever reference Benson ever.
That's the point. Get obscure. So anyway, American Crime. One episode in on Hulu. I think it's 2 weeks into the run on ABC. We'll see how long it lasts. I'm really doubtful it's going to last for very long on ABC because it seems like it's really good.
It's good and probably costs a lot of money to make.
what is the name of the show?
American Crime.
American Crime. Okay.
So
They promoted it pretty heavy around the Super Bowl time, I think.
did they? See, I don't watch any of that stuff. I don't watch regular TV, so I never know like what's coming up post looking at blog posts or something like that. So it says the lives of the participants in a trial with significant racial motives are forever changed during the legal process. So the setup
To Kill a Mockingbird?
Yeah.
What?
I think what's
Boo Radley.
Boo Radley did it. So
Finch.
it seems it's one of those multiple. God, what was that movie Magnolia that had all those multiple storylines that eventually all came together? Yeah,
Steel Magnolias.
Respect the Cock, where he
Magnolia.
was that guy.
Tom Cruise.
Fried
It's actually really good.
Fried green tomatoes.
Where the frogs fell from the sky.
He was the Respect the Cock guy. Remember, he was the
Yes.
self-motivational,
Yes.
like, men, take it back, respect the cock.
Yeah.
But it,
Men are so impressed.
I know. God, it's so good.
Such a woman's world out there.
Finally, somebody's taken back what has been taken back from all of us men. But it
Blame
reminds
the
me of that,
patriarchy.
of Magnolia movie, because it's all these different lives intersecting and coming back together as a result of the murder that's driving this. Because even the mother and father haven't seen each other in like 10 years, right? And would not this murder occur, they wouldn't be coming back together, and they wouldn't the story wouldn't be driving forward. And the other thing is, like, I really feel like Timothy Hutton, who's fairly terrible in that Leverage show.
Should I be writing down every time you reference how terrible you think he is?
Yes.
No, really.
Yes, because
fill up this wall.
He's
over
not 30 Seconds to Mars.
then
level, but-
when I come back and say I really like I loved his acting in this first episode of this, and how good I thought it was relative to what he's been doing on TV for the last couple of years. It's in how it's shot, and it's not the over the shoulder switcheroo thing. It's,
Right.
It's the establishing weird angles and all that stuff. It's super gritty, which ABC, like if you think about the AMC super gritty piece, is not their forte, right?
Right.
But I think now maybe with this show and a couple other things that they're experimenting with, they maybe have seen the light a little bit.
Well, they're competing against HBO and AMC. They're like, we better get on the train.
right.
It's
Because
leaving.
people actually want to watch stuff that's good,
Yeah.
is what I feel they're finally waking up to.
Like you was alluding to, that it's a big departure for ABC. I mean, Disney. Hello. This
But
is not
it's
Touchstone Pictures.
It's a very drug-driven, murder-oriented show.
Yeah.
And if you think, like, for me, and it hasn't gotten there yet. I don't know how it's going to get there yet. But the first series, the first season of The Killing, for me, was super difficult to watch because it was this thing happens, a kid gets killed, and this family just tears itself apart for 6 or 7 hours in front of you.
And then it just never. They
There's
never
no
solved.
let-up.
I think the case is still going on to this day.
I think so.
I think they're still trying to figure out.
See, you're such a product of American TV. Like, you got 45 minutes to figure out who the fuck did this, and then I need to move on.
I gave them a full first season, waiting for some closure. It's like, what are you doing? Shooting this in real time? I mean, Jesus.
Are we looking for Laura Palmer again?
Yes.
Did we find her?
Murder or what?
They're redoing some Twin Peaks.
Yeah, they're
gonna
do
There's
like a
something
return to
coming
Twin
up.
Peaks.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's
Talk.
a redo. It is a return. Right?
Yeah,
It's a
I think
return,
yeah. So.
Who's? Did anybody read anything? Who's helming that?
I thought Lynch was going to be at least executive producing. I don't know if he's actually directing.
But he's not on. He's not boots on the ground, so to speak.
Yeah, maybe not.
So American Crime, one show, and it is like in typically I'll give 45 minutes to a drama, and I'm in or I'm out because it is such a time commitment. There's so much out there.
Was it this? I think I'm in. Wasn't you just making fun of me for the 45
minutes? 24 minutes of pain.
24 minutes of pain.
24 minutes of pain.
There will never be a time in your life where you will not be able to say, weren't you just making fun of me?
I just woke up in the morning. My hair! Oh, weren't you just making fun of me?
Yeah, my hair.
Oh, by the way, Twin Peaks 2016 is going to be directed by David Lynch, written by David Lynch and Mark Frost.
Dune.
Dun.
I don't know.
So
I'm a Dapper Dan man.
I'm a Dapper man.
I don't know.
2 weeks. You stay out of the Woolworths.
Am I banned from the one with the whole chain?
My hair. My hair.
I'm a goddamn Patras Familius. Any show.
I love that.
I know anything that goes starts has any type of Latin speaking. It has got me hooked right there.
And so Clooney is comic gold in that.
Oh, he's genius. Which I really feel that more than drama or being the cool guy is his forte, his funny side.
Yeah.
But he eschews that because the money is on the actiony drama side.
It doesn't matter. It's all good.
Yeah.
Ginger loves herself some George Clooney.
He's got a big old Peter.
He's built
I do not know that for a fact, but it could be true.
But if I was to theorize...
I saw him do a handstand with neither no hands or feet on the ground.
Ginger loves herself some George Clooney like I love myself some Tina Fey.
He did a forearm.
Hey, you got the good end of that stick. Tina Fey versus George Clooney.
Well, I have to put maybe more Kate Beckinsale versus George Clooney.
George Clooney is in your top 5 where?
Oh, he's probably
top 3.
Top 3. And Tina Fey's in your top 3?
Yes, she would be. Yeah.
You got a bad top 3. That's all I'm saying. So, do you have a show you want to talk about or a subject you want to diverge upon?
Yes.
Here comes the bass.
Yeah. I wanted
Hello, can you go? What a brother gotta know.
Mine for this week is a show we kind of talked, we mentioned earlier, I think in this podcast again, Firefly, of how it was gone before its time. And one of the shows that I want to discuss that I thought was gone before its time.
Thomas the Tank Engine?
No, you know where I'm going with this once I start setting it up here.
Barney and Friends.
No, it's not Barney.
I have a guess.
Do you want to tell her?
Do
you want to tell us?
I don't know.
Hey,
or have her
Ginger,
guess?
is that really fair that his wife might have a guess?
I don't know. We don't discuss
Much.
podcasts.
Yeah, we have not discussed this.
Plans.
Okay,
I've
good.
not disclosed this information whatsoever.
What else have you
guess?
told us?
Does it start with Arrested to end with Development?
No, it does not.
Okay, never mind.
Although that is one we should discuss at some point.
Does it start with an ick and end with a D?
I think you used up every one of your Scrabble tiles on that guess there, Ginger. You're going to have to redraw from the pile. I got a Q and a Z.
No, I'm a big fan I'm a sci-fi fan, and grew up with Star Trek and the original series, and then Star Wars and all that. So I'm a big sci-fi nerd. Love those type of shows, and from our wheelhouse days, early in the 90s, we got to have late 80s, early 90s. We got sci-fi
Babylon 5,
sci-fi stuff like the Predator stuff.
Can I buy a vowel?
And
Bingo.
yes. But the one I wanted to talk about was the other franchise, was the Terminator franchise. And the short-lived TV series, Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Sarah Chronicles.
Sarah Chronic.
It was the
Chronicles.
Chronicles of Sarah.
Does she have kangaroo?
But it was a series that was out in 08 and 09.
Oh, Summer Glau?
Yeah.
Man, she is the killer of shows.
The Summer Glau curse.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned this once before.
Yeah, we talked about that.
When we got on the Summer Glau talking about her. But yeah, it was Summer Glau, and it was Lena Headey, and then Thomas Dekker, Shirley Manson from Garbage, the lead singer of Garbage, was in it. And it was interesting that it started out kind of with a bang. They started it as a half season, I think, right after the Super Bowl. Fox did that year in 2008, and it was the highest rated show of the year. The debut, and I think the series itself maintained ratings that first half season, and it was the highest rated show of the 07-08 year. And then so they renewed it. Fox renewed it for a full season the following year. And it then it kind of started to slow down ratings wise. After that, it fell from I think the end of the year.
Did it make it to a second season?
Yes, yeah.
And that's one of those shows when the first few episodes, I was like, yes, I am watching this, and then it sort of disappeared off my radar. I don't know if they put it in a hiatus for a little bit, and then I was just like, eh.
Yeah, there was a little bit of that. I think that
that
there was a little bit of time before the second season started up, and then so that probably didn't help them continue on that audience.
Yeah,
to keep it going. But there's some interesting premises in there, and I'm kind of I love time travel stuff. I'm a big fan of 12 Monkeys, and I love the sci-fi time travel type of things, and how things in the future, going back to the past and all that. But so it had some interesting premises. They basically discounted Terminator 3. It was basically taking place after the events of T2.
Right.
Shouldn't Terminator 3 be discounted in every way possible?
Quite possibly. In fact, I think actually the new Terminator movie that's coming out this summer is doing that. I think they're bypassing T3 and
they are, and I
think
it's discounting its own self. It's getting terrible, pre-reviews.
Just seeing the snippets with Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's hard to recapture that magic,
Well, too. I mean,
I was like, who is that big old dude?
Yeah, and it's like, how can you? Well, they're explaining it from what I've heard when I pre-read about the new Terminator movie is that they're explaining that it's a 60-year-old Terminator is that he was sent back in time before the events of the original events in '84.
And
he was sent back 20. Yeah, his
organic self aged like a human,
right?
But he's still pure evil or love on the
inside.
Inside.
He's another one of the Protector Terminators.
Yeah.
That was sent back, but they overshot the mark and sent him back too early. He ended up being in the 50s, I think, and so he ages. Or 60s or whatever it was, however they explain it. So he ages. So he basically it takes place. It's basically a retelling. It's a reimagined, kind of like a la Star Trek.
Oh, it's a
reboot, a different timeline. Basically, since he was around. The Reese. From what I tell, and this is all just conjecture. What I'm seeing in the previews is Reese shows up, and there's already a liquid metal Terminator trying to kill him, so that doesn't create John Connor. And then Sarah Connor's already been warned by the old Terminator that's been there for years. Basically, has been guarding her from her growing up as a child. Has been guarding her, and then he goes and kills. Then he's battling the. Basically, it's in a way. I think it's probably where people are feeling down about it is that it's a retelling of T2 in a way. There's a T100 versus a liquid metal Terminator, and okay, we've seen that before, but.
I remember that first movie with the liquid metal Terminator
T2,
and the T2, and they and that when they used that grenade launcher, I guess it was, and when it exploded him in half, and he was staggering. When I saw that, I think I saw it in the original in the theater. I was blown away by that. It doesn't hold up as well.
Well, yeah, for its day, it was cutting edge stuff.
Fairly well. It's not terrible.
It's not terrible by a launch. It's like
it's not MASH special effects to today.
It's like I saw I think it was on Reddit. It may have been on Reddit when I saw this.
Of course, it was on Reddit.
It was talking about
Paul, when you say you see, read, know anything, I assume it's off of Reddit.
It's coming from Reddit.
It's either Reddit or somebody on Reddit stole it from Dig. Either one, or Huffington Post,
or you wrote it on Reddit,
or you porn.
Under my pseudonym Ratnuts. They were talking about why has the original Jurassic Park held up so well, and somebody who works in the effects industry weighed in and said it's because a lot of the scenes were shot. It's nighttime,
right,
and you can hide a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
and that helps tremendously. He said the effects hold up well anyway. But being at night, it makes it much more. It hides a lot of things.
Right.
Well, how much of the stuff, like even speaking of T2, how much of those scenes are shot at night or in low lit situations?
Yes,
and
that helps tremendously with.
There's only a few daylight stuff, like the truck chase scene where he's in the giant wrecker truck and he jumps off. The T2.
It's still like if you go back and watch T2, the only thing that takes you back a little bit is the liquid metal guy. I mean, things have gotten so far advanced in that area that it's a little bit difficult to take now. But all the practical especially when stunts and stuff is not bad.
When he pulled up and came out of the black and white checker
floor, right?
I was like, they did that for a reason because that's easy to blend out of,
right?
Yeah. And then the fire when the truck explodes, and the fire, and he comes walking out of the fire after they've already ridden off. That looks a little hokey because it's daylight, it's bright light, a lot of fire in the background, so it's it doesn't hold up as well as some of the other darker scenes.
Yeah,
like you're saying.
When the first thing that you said when you brought up the Sarah
Connor Chronicles,
the Chronicles of Jessica.
Your boy, which you got put up on your screen there from Deadwood, was
right. So Garrett Dillahunt, that was the H, Paul Dillahunt. That was the first thing that came to my mind because I can't tell you how many of my favorite shows this guy is in.
Yeah,
like
he's a good actor.
He was
the dude that killed Wild Bill.
Yes,
Hickok,
and then he comes back. So in season 1, he plays the guy that kills Wild Bill Hickok, and his facial expressions and how he acts was so unique that season 3 he comes back and plays a different character. And unless you know who Garrett Dillahunt is, you don't know it's Garrett Dillahunt on screen.
Is he one of these guys that he's such a good character actor that you don't pigeonhole him?
He totally pulls it off. So if you know what I like, let me read through a couple of the stuff that he's been on. It boggles my mind the stuff that he's been on that I like. Deadwood was the first time I saw him. So he plays Francis Wilcott and Jack McCall. Jack McCall is the one that shot dude. Yep. And he comes back a couple seasons and plays another guy. And that's the first time I've ever seen that on a modern TV show where the actor is so good they bring him back
to play another character. Different from a previous character he was there to play.
And actually, Francis Wilcott, who is a psychopath, is one of my favorite characters of all times. And he has this scene where he's walking down the street talking to himself about vengeance and about how he cannot. Now, this is not the verbiage that he's saying, but he's expressing in the verbiage that he's saying, which is about love and being caught by surprise by life. He's talking about vengeance and a bunch of other stuff. That it's one of my favorite scenes of all time, and he's just walking down a muddy street, pissed off, in a psychopathic mood about what he needs to do based on what's been done to him. Huh. And it's awesome. So then he's in Law and Order, ER. Oh my God, he was actually in John from Cincinnati.
How old is he? Is he in his 50s?
No, he's probably our age.
Huh.
He was in Damages, which is a great series. If you have not seen that, you're missing out.
It's Glenn Close in that, right? Right?
Yes. And he was in Life, which starred the guy who was the captain from Captain
Kirk.
Damon Lewis, who was in A Band of Brothers. He was Captain Winter, the redheaded guy.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
He was in Life.
Captain Shuttlecock.
Shuttlecock. What?
Yeah, I don't know.
How did that? Then he was in Life. He was in Terminator, the Sarah Jessica Chronicles.
Sarah Jessica Parker Chronicles.
Yes.
Sex in
Horseface Chronicles.
Terminator in the City.
He was in an episode of Lie to Me, which I love that series. He was in White Collar. I love that series. He was in The Glades. I love that series. He was in Alphas, which was okay. He was in Killing Me Softly with Brad Pitt.
With his song?
Yep. He was in Looper.
Ginger got it.
He was in Burn Notice, which Love me some Burn Notice.
You just like her.
Oh,
Burn Notice, was that the one with Dennis Leary?
no, Burn Notice starred. Let me click on over
I
here.
can't remember her name.
Gabrielle Anwar, who, since she played Dagny in Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I know
Great
what
movie.
you're talking about.
top 5 forever.
So, what was that series, fire department series that Dennis Leary was in?
Oh, Rescue Me.
Rescue Me. Okay.
Yeah, totally different deal.
Is that any
But
good?
Rescue Me
Yeah.
is great.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you should totally watch that. It's really, really good. So he was in Elementary, love, and now this season he's in Justified, which is like one of my favorite series of all time.
Oh, wow.
And he's just, I don't know how Dillahunt does it, but he always lands these, and they're not bit parts, but they are supporting parts in series after series after series. But that was the first thing you said, Ron, when you said Sarah Chronicles Jeffrey Horseface was the Garrett Dillahunt is in there.
Yeah. Yeah, he was one of the Terminators.
Yeah, and I don't remember specifically.
He was an investigator who then gets taken over or gets duplicated by a Terminator. Whatever.
Yeah, and he's a liquid metal guy, right?
No. He's an original. He's a T-888.
But he looks like the police officer, and that's how he keeps showing up.
Right. Yeah, he basically kills the police officer and takes his form.
Takes his skin off. What is he? How does he?
Yeah,
if he's not liquid metal guy,
that was one of the kind of the hokey things.
Don't they show him like taking all the guy's skin off in a bathtub or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
They had him at the bottom of a well, and then they lowered down a bucket. It puts the lotion on his skin,
right.
or else it gets the hose.
You're going
again.
a long way for that one, Paul.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's not the first time Paul's heard that.
But yeah, it was explained by they did the show in order to get it into 2007 to make budget. The show was being made to get current. They didn't have to like go back. Okay, wait a minute. We always got to think about we're doing this in 1999. There's supposed to be so many years after the events of T2. But so they did a time jump, from 1999 to 2007 in there.
Right.
The Summer Glau Terminator and Sarah Connor and John Connor did this jump. Well, then this Terminator follows him or comes through the jump as well, but he's damaged. He's messed up. So all his skin's gone. He's just, an endoskeleton, a partially operational endoskeleton. So he repairs himself, but then he has to redo his skin. And in doing that, he finds... Somehow they explain it that there's some guy doing artificial skin, grafting.
Are you about a size 14? Silence of the
Wait. Was she a real big woman?
She a big woman. She a
big
big fat
fat
woman.
woman. Big fat woman.
Real big fat girl.
I need some help putting this in the back of my van, maybe. My arm's
I got a broken arm. You got to put this in the back of my VW van.
But anyway, they
Terminator
explain.
trying to tuck his junk back and dance around.
But yeah, your boy Garrett was the dude. He basically killed the FBI agent and took
When
his
he
face.
showed up, and he's in episode 1 of this season's first episode of Justified, I did a fist pump when I was like, this guy always fucking brings it.
Nerd.
I know. But I've yet to ever see him in a series where he didn't elevate it in some way.
Yeah.
No
You
matter
said-
how bit part he was.
You said that show Alpha was just okay.
It's
Did
okay.
Did he up it?
I think
a
he
little
plays one of the bad guys for one episode.
bit? Did it?
It's
did
not-
It, was
yeah.
it a good episode he was in?
Yeah, dude, and he was great in both Deadwood pieces. Every episode, like Lie to Me, the episode he's in, he brings it. Like he's not he reminds me a little bit of Harry Dean Stanton. Not that he's Harry Dean Stanton, but if you ever saw Harry Dean Stanton in a movie, he's a bit part.
Yeah.
But he always made an impact, right?
Right. Yeah, he goes all out. He owns the role.
And Garrett he was in, oh my god, what was the funny? I did one of the few, Raising Hope. Did you guys ever watch that?
No.
Nope.
Here's the premise for Raising Hope, and I'm not going to read it. I'm
Is
just
this
gonna,
a TV
tell you.
series?
I've seen like half of one.
So it's two hillbillies that got married when they're 17 and had a kid. That kid then grows up to, when he's 16, he has sex with a serial killer lady who then has his baby and is executed while she's in prison. Hope.
The baby or
the kid. The serial
mother.
killer lady, the mother, is executed in prison, and Hope is the little baby that comes out of that. So it's Garrett and the wife, and oh my gosh, the wife is Martha Plimpton.
Yeah.
And
which I like her.
Yeah, I love her too. And if you've ever you wrote what Raising Hope, it was super. It was like Married with Children times Psychopath, right? It definitely took that whole thing and
darker.
Darker and a little bit dumber at the same time.
Was it? It was like a dark comedy, or
yeah. And so they bring Hope, who's the little baby of their child, their son, and the serial killer home, and they try to raise her as this little family. Yeah. It's their grandchild, and he plays the dad, and Garrett's like my age, and he's already got grandkids.
It can happen.
Martha Plimpton, I remember from all those movies she made when she was young and she was a teenager, all those teenager-type movies. And Garrett Dillahunt is the father, and Lucas Neff, who's just some dude, some young guy, plays and it's really, really funny. And he normally doesn't play this type of role. His role is the real serious, almost psychopath guy, and he was phenomenal in Raising Hope. Phenomenal. Twice. I said it twice, Paul. Fuck you.
You said it. Yeah, you said it correctly once. You stumbled it the first time, and then you gave me the stink eye and corrected yourself. I'm just sitting over here. Go ahead, roll with it.
Yeah, roll with it. But anyway, the Sarah Jessica Parnicles.
Sarah Connor. Chronicles.
You're just making Barnacle.
A.K.A. Ratnuts. The Ratnut Chronicles.
Yeah. Sarah Barnacle.
It's if you're into the whole Terminator thing, the sci-fi, it's worth checking out. It does at the very end, and I was kind of disappointed that Fox canceled it. Of course, Fox cancels everything; they're idiots.
They burn to the ground everything they touch.
Right? Anything good? Pray to God that it's not on Fox.
They're just not willing to stick with anything. They're not willing to stick it out.
Oh. Did you make this series in a certain order? Let's start with their episode 3.
Right. Yep. And then just as the Terminator thing jumps to a new timeline to like set up the next series, oh, sorry, we're not coming back. That's just the way it's going to,
I watched that show. We watched it together.
Yeah.
And I found it, I remember thinking that they were trying to cram a lot of stuff.
Well, they were,
It was hard to keep up.
Well, because they were doing the whole thing of, there's more Resistance fighters coming back in time, more Terminators coming back in time. So one would pop up in order to make each episode more interesting and keep things moving along and instead of just like, oh, we're always running from this one Terminator. There's other people involved, like, Kyle Reese's, brother comes back in time. That was Brian Austin Green's character. He comes back as a.
The only thing that he ever did that was quality was banging Megan Fox.
Married her. That's his wife.
Did David Cameron retain
smart man
partial control? Does he retain any type of control?
Who's David Cameron?
You mean Jim Cameron?
Oh, Steve Cameron. Jessica Cameron.
Crow.
Sarah Jessica Barnacle Particles.
So does James Cameron?
Jimmy.
Is his brother David? Is he still involved in the series, or what's going on? What's going on with that? I mean, it's like Patrick Swayze and his ugly, sort of troll-like brother that looks like him.
Yeah, his brother
Jim Cameron's like only the biggest director on earth. We're calling him David.
David Cameron is.
David Cameron has a horse face. Looks like Sarah Jessica.
Isn't David Cameron? Isn't David Cameron? Isn't he the British Prime Minister? I think that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, whoops. He's George W.'s bitch. I think is how he's going to remember by history.
I just thought he was phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
Phenomena.
So
I don't think Cameron had any
David Cameron.
Well, actually, no.
David Cameron. Amy.
They're given.
We shall only refer to him as Cameron.
James Cameron is given writing credit for 31 episodes of all 31 episodes of the Sarah Connor.
No, I think he was pretty involved. But the other thing that reminded me,
and so was Gail Ann Hurd, who was.
They did. I don't know who that is. They did 31 episodes.
Director. 31 episodes of that show. Yeah.
I saw like maybe 5.
Second season was 17 episodes. First
I don't know that the second season I caught. Maybe that was. I think it may have been Moving Houses, which typically I think that why
That happens
I
every
didn't
6
watch
months,
it.
right?
I didn't watch it, so I think that may be why it got canceled.
Part of the issue, yeah, right? You didn't watch it, and then part
I
of the
represent like 250,000 people in the United States.
there you go. Part of it also was I just read the Writers Guild strike.
Ooh.
Back then.
Oh, yeah.
Basically delayed it from most of the first season to the end of the first season, so they
You're right.
they didn't get to be able to show them in order, so except for a long delay.
Yeah, because
kind of lost steam.
I initially had thought it was just put on hiatus like they so often do now, which I hate. But you're right. It was the writer's strike delayed it just long enough that it just went off my radar.
Yeah, and that's what I think probably happened to a lot of people.
Is it on Netflix?
Yeah. I say that, but I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think it is.
Let me check.
You check. But the other thing, I because I was watching these two shows concurrently, and I wasn't a huge fan of the show, and it's gotten fairly mediocre ratings. But it was at the same time.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
Was Bionic Woman,
Kimmy Schmidt,
and I watched Bionic Woman because Katie Sackhoff jumped from Battlestar Galactica to Bionic Woman, and she was the bad Bionic Woman in
I don't remember that at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was out right at the same time as Barnacle's Sarah Jessica Parker's thing.
who lives in a pineapple under the sea.
But so it got
Did
canceled.
she marry David Cameron?
I think so. They live in England now.
When I was in college, I think I had sex with David Cameron. But it was right.
Phenomenal.
It was right in the same time
Phenomenal.
period, and both of them kind of got broke up because of the same thing. The writers' strike hit. All those shows went off the air. Anything that was new got killed because their people were the youngest and they were out.
What does this have to do with David Cameron?
Nothing has to do with David Cameron,
know.
except for Downton Abbey. Maybe that's the only thing that we could talk about that may considerably involve David Cameron.
BBC?
Yeah.
You know me.
I'm done with BBC. Yeah, you know me.
Yes.
So while Ron's looking for naked women on his phone,
I'm looking up Sarah Connor. It is not available on Netflix, nor is it available.
I didn't think it is because I haven't
it's not
seen
on Amazon
it
Prime
anywhere.
currently either.
So you're talking about a show that we currently can't watch anywhere.
Except
Exactly.
on DVD.
What is
and
that?
Blu-ray.
I think it's locked down.
Yeah, well,
It'll come back on each.
and
one,
I have
one of those
I
two,
have
or-
currently one disc a month or one disc at a time plan on Netflix.
Yeah,
so.
that's what we have. Yeah.
Yep. So there was a briefly mentioned it last podcast, and I wanted to revisit the show because it is great. It's really flying under the radar, I think, for the most part. People either love the show or they've never heard about it, or they're like, yeah, maybe I think I saw a thing about that, but I have no idea what it's about, so I'm not tuning in. But last podcast, I talked about how we had a conversation about how Bravo and the History Channel and all that shit was dropping the Real Housewives of
all the reality
of Electra
reality BS.
and bringing back like what made them what they are, right?
Honey Boo
Actual history.
Actual history.
Honey Boo Boo Radley.
So on the History Channel, the TV series Vikings airs.
You said that was really good, right?
It is really good, and the season 3 just started, and there's a lot of reasons why I think it's good. It has a really good cast
Vikings.
about some Viking
And
dudes.
Vikings kick butt.
Well, they do, but like you could roll a show out about the Vikings and just be all about the slaughter and mayhem that they did, and they worship these war gods and they kill people, so on and so forth. However, a good part of the show is spent about explaining to the uninitiated, the dummies.
Did you just check to make sure it's recording?
I did.
Is it recording?
It is. We're at 36 minutes of. Not only were they extremely warlike people, like why were they like that? What was the driver behind it? And that
Because they were always cold.
They were freezing. They want to get the fuck out of that place. That's not really that far from the truth. They wanted arable land where they could farm and raise kids and
Arable
and,
women
Why would you want arable women
to raise kids.
Okay, fertile women.
Plow their fields, I meant.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm talking about procreation, Ginger. God damn it.
Be fruitful and multiply.
When is Paul biblical. Not talking about procreation? Big word alert!
Even in my sleep.
So they go to great lengths to explain how, like, the Vikings and all
remember the best part about having kids is making them.
That's right.
Yeah, and then it's all downhill from there.
Time to practice. Let me get the jumpsuit.
That's a Dangerfield line from Easy Money.
Yeah. So about how women were...
No, Back to School, sorry.
Women were very prominent in that culture, like the Druidic culture, the North culture. The women, as long as they could toe the line. She's got
large tracts of
land. And he makes the booby signals.
Well, nice one.
That's carrying groceries.
I say the positive thing, and I take it all away with the hand motions.
That's all right.
But they were very pro-women. As long as you were a woman that could stand up, go toe-to-toe, you were allowed to do whatever. It wasn't like the rest of the world at that time, which was very anti-woman, subservient. So it
was a matriarchal society.
Yeah,
they valued the women's contribution.
They valued the women's contribution. The Celtics did, the Druids did. It was very female balanced, right?
And didn't property pass down through the women's side?
They were people too, right? And then all the cultures that supplanted that were women or shit, and we can't leave them stuff because they're dumb and they don't know what to do. And like they show women in this, like obviously with anything Viking related, there's no written language. They didn't write anything down. They would do runes that meant things, but it wasn't like, hey, let me sit down and write a story for you. It was like a rune that meant something that was related to Odin. It was on my sword, and I chopped people's head off with it.
It's like a hieroglyph or something,
right?
Like that.
But they did have a big a thing about what are called shield maidens, which were the women that would go out into battle and fight with them and be on equal footing with the men in terms of battle, in terms of input into what the tribe would do and the kingdom and everything. So it was super cool in terms of what I really like about it. Like with any show like this, it's on the History Channel. There's only so much accuracy that you can bring to stuff that there's no written record about. Right.
There's a lot of
conjecture and piecing things together, and archaeologically speaking, we can say thus and such about this culture. But then once they hit Europe and there's a lot of writing about what occurs in terms of like once they started invading lands that were actually writing stuff down.
Is secondhand testimony on what they appeared to
be about and who they
from
were.
Somebody who's attacking us.
Right. And so the cool part of the series is, and they are in season 3, is that they are following fairly closely to what we understand about the main characters. The main characters in Vikings are historical characters. Travis Flimmel, who is, if you watch Sons of Anarchy, is much like the guy that plays in that series in terms of how they play their character and how everything goes. They're pretty similar guys, but he plays Ragnar Lothbrok.
Of course.
He does, which is a historical character. The person that plays his wife is playing a historical character, so on and so forth. And what we know of them, they are following fairly closely what that storyline was from them being Vikings and then the North to where they invade England and so on and so forth. So, but what they're doing is filling in a lot of blanks with character developments and plot points and so on and so forth.
Now, would you say that the male female lead have equal footing in this series, or are they leaning, considering that is a matriarchy, are they leaning a little bit more towards the male lead? Or
Travis Fimmel, the Ragnar Lothbrok is the tip of the spear to keep on the military tip. However, the two women that are around him, which is his current wife and his previous wife, are off pursuing just as much as he is, like farmland and conquering, and they're all three of them are earls in the political structure that they have for the Vikings. So it isn't that they're downplayed, but obviously any series has to say, hey, here's kind of the guy that this is about. But he shares a significant amount of screen time with females, which is different than what you would see in most things. And it's because that's how the Vikings were.
Right.
It wasn't the whole Druidic Vikings, northern people thing was very balanced between female and male, unlike Southern Europe, which is extremely male dominated, and the women
Right.
did dishes and stayed barefoot and all that stuff. So we mentioned that super preview or super like 2 minutes in the other podcast, but I wanted to make sure we revisited that in some detail because I think I'm 3 episodes into that season and it's really, really, really good.
I think that would have been maybe since how many seasons? Just one has run. 3 have gone.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been interesting to like do a season from his point, focusing on him, and then do another season with one of the females, to focus on as a strong lead character. Because there's, especially the past few years, there's been a lot of talk about minorities' roles in media, in film and TV, women's roles in as strong leads, and not just damsel in distress.
I totally agree with you. And one of the books series I've been trying to get you to read forever, The Black Company.
Yeah.
The 3rd book in is called She is the Darkness.
Oh, okay.
So every book is from a different character's perspective in this group of characters that you get to know. 3rd one in is She is the Darkness, which is like the main female character that you get to know. She takes over and becomes a storyteller in book 3, and then it moves on to somebody else in book 4.
Do you know if that book series has ever been picked up for optioned for anything?
I don't know if it's ever been optioned. It would be difficult to do because it doesn't make, like, one of the books doesn't make sense a lot of sense without the context of the others.
Right.
If that it's a very, like, it again, like I said, I think I said in a couple of podcasts before, like, I love a story that starts in the middle.
Yeah, starts you in the middle of the action. You have to figure it out on the way.
Much like Middle Earth, this story starts, and there's like 800 years of history previous that builds up to the moment of the storytelling beginning of book 1.
Right.
And then it takes off from there. So it's really hard to do because contextually it's so complicated.
I do have on your recommendation, I do have the first book. I need to go back. I think I had like several books going at once, and I put it down and just never came back to it. So I need to go back to that again. And it's just like any type of media. Sometimes it may be something that is worth investing time in, but you, for whatever reason, like Orphan Black, the first episode I saw, I was like, eh. And then I went back and gave it another shot, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. So
Vikings, by the way, is 2 seasons are available on Amazon Prime. And then the 3rd season,
you'll have to pay.
They make you pay for.
Yes,
but it's current. It's. I mean, it's just there's only like 3 episodes that are available. It's 2015, so I guess it's currently. They're
Is that
currently
history?
releasing them.
History Channel.
History?
Yeah.
Which, the big part that we were talking about last podcast when you weren't here, Ginger, was all these genitals. When all these TV shows that were on all of the TV channels that were supposed to be about something specific all became about the Real Housewives or some type of... Bravo went from like, hey, we're about this really highbrow entertainment to the worst of the worst of the worst reality TV. But now the worm has begun to turn, thank God, and bring them back to full circle in there.
Well, yeah, we talked about that last week. Is that like the worst example you can, like Toddlers and Tiaras, or Honey Boo Boo,
all those,
and then there was that big blow up that they had to cancel Honey Boo Boo because apparently the
Child molester.
the man in the boyfriend, he was a child molester, and it blew up, and they said we are canceling.
Wash their hands of it.
Yeah.
So we have. Did you tell it? He's a friend of ours is married to.
No, I didn't.
A guy that we know is married to a good friend of mine, and he lives in LA. They moved from New York to LA, and he started working for the History Channel, and was doing these really great documentaries, and one of them he even has an Emmy. One that he worked on was nominated and won an Emmy, and History Channel was bought by Lifetime. So now his job is to do things like Dance Moms and things like that.
Ooh.
He's got to be like one who slid his wrist.
I don't know. I mean, I've never talked to him about because he married my friend, so I don't know him as well, but I've never talked to him about how he feels about that. It's a very lucrative job, I think. I think it pays well, and I think it's, he has a pretty high level position for what he does. But you can't, you're going from this to this.
Well, and that's the interesting thing about, you think about that, and you people's reaction to, oh, you was the showrunner on Honey Boo Boo? But when I worked in the game industry, I worked at a company. It was a very small company. The games, some of them were successful, a lot of them weren't. Or some of them were well received, and we took a ton of flack.
But isn't that the difference between hey, people like this game or didn't like this game versus we were contributing to the downfall of Western society?
The intellectual and moral decline.
Even if you work on a project that is sort of widely panned, the people who, when you're working on it, working with a team that, like what you're saying he's doing, you get a certain amount of gratification that you're doing your job well. But, it's the end product, you might sorry, wash my hands out of here. Yeah. Prank call. And that's, the last game that the company I worked for before I got out of gaming, it was super widely panned for a lot of reasons. But I had a ton of fun working on it because I liked the people I worked with, and the part I played on it, working on the cinematics, I really enjoyed, and I put everything I could into it for the 9 months we had to work on the game,
right.
On a limited budget. You can't make excuses past the fact. Once it's out there, you just take it.
Not in your defense, but I think that there's a difference between a game that gamers love and a game that gamers are like, to, again, the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Yeah, that is
no redeeming social value at all, other than, dude, my brain power is so small that all I can do is tune in and watch people fight and hate each other.
Well, and that's why we talked about before. One of Nikki and I's guilty pleasures is watching The Bachelor Island, or whatever the hell it's called, Bachelor in Paradise.
You're guilty and convicted,
and it is like the lowest common denominator. But I'm just never. It's like watching a train wreck every week, and you just love to. It's like you come on a game show, and in 6 weeks you're like, he doesn't love me. It's it's one of those shows that I'll watch it every week. Half the time I'm sitting there playing on my iPhone. I'm just listening.
You're Candy Crushing it.
I'm Candy Crushing that son gun, boom, beaching it. And it's still a guilty pleasure. It's I've watched a lot of episodes of Jersey Shore because it's a train wreck. It's a humanity train wreck.
Oh no!
Yes, and I'm not saying that it's like you're saying it's disposable media. I will never go back and rewatch it, but it's fun. It's stupid fun.
I had never even thought about Ron's point last week where he said why the producers and the creators of it are we get this big ratings up front and it's awesome and we're super cool, but on the back end nobody ever comes back for a second watch. So money wise, there's not a lot of longevity to it.
I think that's what they're realizing now is that they're seeing
there's no replay value.
That hey, this is something that we can make X amount of dollars, big money right now, and then it's gone.
Yeah,
because can you go?
Reality TV?
Yeah, and it's like that show called the Axemen. And they show these various little small companies that go out and chop down trees. It's called the Axemen.
Right.
I've watched a couple episodes.
I've watched most seasons of it. It's okay.
It's okay. It's fairly.
I would never rewatch it.
I would never rewatch it. It's fairly set up. If it's on, I'll watch it. I won't actively go and record it.
But yet something like Lost or BSG, you would go back and watch over.
Yeah. I have watched, and people have varying likes or dislikes about the Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I really enjoyed that series, and
Brian loves Buffy.
We have rewatched
That's
that.
Not true.
We have rewatched that series, and there was a lot of episodes, at least 3 times.
And while I don't like Buffy and Angel and all that stuff, I totally understand why people do.
And I never got into Angel. I loved the Buffy universe.
It's not one of the ones I would pan just out and out, but it's just not for me. But I understand why people like it.
Yeah, but see, that's to illustrate what you're talking about, is that I would go back and rewatch Buffy again. I would never watch another episode of X-Men or The Bachelor, a rerun. It's like, no. What am I learning from this episode? There is no depth to it.
Once you're done, you're done. What's sadder than the person that's watching that episode of The Bachelor for like the fourth time?
Well, and you think about the way they have some of these. Some people love those. It's like watching, like they love like sites like TMZ and stuff like that, and they love the gossipy National Enquirer, Kim Kardashian culture, that type of thing, and they will go on Facebook and talk endlessly about each of the people on The Bachelor, and it's like, no, they're a bunch of idiots. I want to see the train wreck once.
Well, and how can you even believe? How can you even believe that is actually reality? It could be just all scripted and they're acting.
And that's why I can sit there and mostly play on my iPhone, because it is really apparent that they cut it the way they want to cut it to make people into villains. And
I think it's heavily edited and redacted.
It's super, and they when they're
interviewing, there's no need to script it, because I think you get 9 idiots, 10, 25 idiots in a room.
I think the
drama will ensue.
Well, they dramatic bad behavior is more desirable
every
to
season,
the producers than the straight-laced, folk.
They very carefully
they want the crazies
contestants, and they're every season there is how crazy is this person, and then there's the evil person. They have, it's like a soap opera, and they make sure that you get your feel of he's going to pick her again and keep her on, and then the tearful goodbyes. It's all.
Oh yeah, we do that with other shows that we watch. Like the Project Runway and Top Chef. It's like, okay, why is this person still on there? Why are they keeping it on there? Well, because they're a problem child that brings interest and ratings.
It's entertainment.
Have you ever seen that?
Is it?
Have you ever seen that show with David Navarro, where the tattoo artist series, where they bring all these up?
The girl, what's her name? Cat D.
No, I know which one you're talking about.
That's LA Inc.
That's LA Inc. This is another show to where they have like 3 judges.
It's a reality show. Yeah. It's a contest thing. Yeah,
they bring in
for tattoo artists.
For tattoo, and it's really interesting. Every week they have different challenges, and some artists are really good at one thing, and then they put them out their comfort zone by making them do like Art Nouveau.
Is that show still on?
I think it's still on, and I've recorded, because sometimes I'll run it in blocks, like episodes in blocks of previous seasons, and I'll record like
on Gay Tuesday.
I'm hoping. I can always hope, because it's compelling, and they always have one of the tattoo artists is the badass who's going to talk a lot of trash and like get up in people's faces, and you have the bitchy girl who's going to backstab and cry and then backstab some more, and that's
the premise for every show on Bravo.
Every reality show.
I know, exactly. I don't know, is what were you guys talking about? Runway
Project Runway.
Is that the one where they design the dresses?
Yes.
I have watched some of that. I like the design process of it. Mm-hmm. I like the presentation and them talking about like how that fits into like, oh, this is a blah and this is a blah, and they're like, I can't feel this because this isn't within the theme. I like all of the design aspects. I could give a shit with the other 45 minutes of the cat fighting and I don't like your dress and you don't like my dress and I'm gonna scratch your eyes out, bitch. I could care less about that, and literally it's a 15-minute show for me.
Yeah. They stretch it out to
here's the challenge, here's the stuff, what did you make?
Well, and that's what I like about shows like LA Inc., that tattoo show, where it's real artists and the stuff it's really attractive in a lot, and sometimes some of them just butcher stuff, and that's on somebody. A living person is like,
that's what killed her show, though. I think that's a perfect example, because that's what killed her show was the reality aspect of it, because she was dating Nikki Sixx.
Oh, you mean
Cat D.
Cat D.
Yeah.
Cat D was dating Nikki Sixx.
She's pretty much a train wreck.
No, if they would have kept that all out of that, and it would have been about the tattoos and the shop and the process, but no, she had, my life is so amazing, you got to come feel me. It became about I date Nikki Sixx, and then John Wayne Wilson, whatever the fuck the guy's name is, that screwed over Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
I'm dating him now. And then as soon as that controversy came, they're like, we're done.
And see, like we was talking about with Honey Boo Boo, is that personal stuff suddenly rears its head and it's not attractive to the corporation that is making the
the corporation was not about it. The
Yeah.
people watching, I don't think they give a shit who she dates or fucks or whatever she wants to roll out there. What they wanted to see was like, hey, this is a pretty cool thing I do. I tattoo people in a way that's like super realistic, and it's extremely personable to them. Like if they would have stuck with that, she'd still be on the air regardless of who she was dating or fucking on the side.
I don't know.
But she made it all about.
I think people love that.
No, because that show would still be on the air.
Well, if the
they ixnayed that as soon as that shit blew up with him.
The people making the show ixnayed it. If they would have just said, we'll roll with this, people eat that voyeurism stuff up. They want to see the nasty little sordid details of people,
then the
how
people that
are
make
famous
these kind
and they
of
mess
shows
themselves up.
miss the boat then, if that's what you're saying. Because I don't know that, like, the money is there then if the people are going to continue to watch. I think they were like, this is going to become such a drag and no one's going to watch it. We're going to fight all this publicity shit because she's doing this dude that does this other chick that used to be married to this. You know, the whole reality aspect of it, once that spun out of control, that's what killed the show.
Yeah, well, yeah. I guess it's the people the companies that make certain shows. It's what their tolerance for risk is.
Well, for
more
sure,
than anything.
But the semi-reality of it, like we do tattoos, we own a shop.
That's interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah. I loved watching it for the aspect of the people that would come in and say, hey, I want a tattoo of my dad because my dad was this super cool guy.
As a tribute or something like that. Yeah.
And, you know, he got cancer when he was younger and I was 13 and, you know, we fought it together for 4 years and then he succumbed and it's like the guiding light of my life. That I bought into. Like, that's interesting to me. But who Kat Von D is fucking this week versus the next week, I'm out.
It's funny, there's quite a few of these tattoo-based shows. There's another series. I can't remember the name. It's like Tattoo Rescue or something like that. It's people come in with these horrible jacked up tattoos, like chicken scratch-looking things that people did in prison, or they let their neighbor do it for $5,
or
they have to turn it into a work of art. And that is a really neat show. I mean, because they come in and they always have the people always have just these nasty tattoos. It's just horrible looking, no artistic quality to them, and they have to figure out a way and make a neat design and hide it in it. And that's really interesting how they do that.
That's cool to me.
Yeah, as long as the Cat D is not messing it up.
As long as they can tell that story without telling me who Cat D is banging that week out there.
Because Brian is out.
Yeah, that's stuff like that. There was it used to be on Netflix, and they removed it a couple of years back. It was a series called, I think it was Art in the 21st Century, and they would just do these deep dive interviews with modern artists on their sculptors, painters, and current contemporary artists. And it was really fascinating, and they do each episode they do these deep dives on their process, looking at their works, what they think about the behind the scenes, how the sausage is made, that some of them make these huge works of art that they have to have all these assistants help out with. Are we something go crazy?
I think we just crossed over the hour mark.
Is it still recording?
It's still going. Okay. It can go an hour and 40 minutes.
I can't go an hour and 40 minutes.
If y'all ever get a chance, it's not on Netflix anymore. It was really interested in that. It was a really interesting series because people people
Did
talked
they
about.
go into Jackson Pollock's deep dive into Jackson Pollock process?
Yeah, he painted the
And
inside of a toilet.
Toilet scatological paintings.
Man, he chipped the porcelain with all them corn niblets and rat nuts.
A little callback to
This
earlier
one's called,
humor.
my favorite's called 24 Minutes of Pain.
That's what you need to call this episode.
Oh, wait, duh. Because it fits into the 24 minutes of pain for, hey, this show sucks. And I'm going to watch it for 24 minutes. 24 minutes of pain because I might be in there eye pooping. And it might be a painful process.
Sometimes
40 minutes, 35 minutes of pain for the Lost Peel session you lost today.
Yeah.
That's so
I think we
frustrating.
recreated it.
We
pretty
did.
well.
We did it justice.
Yeah, I think we covered.
And we
the main points.
carried forth the mystery of the Lost Peel sessions.
Right. We represented it well. We may have lost some small nuggets of greatness, but
He said
we may have
nuggets.
also added some new ones. So.
Yeah, Jackson
He said
Pollock
nuggets.
No.
but
I know.
Rats.
I was like,
Rat nuggets.
that's right. Did you see the nuggets on that rat? That's the thing about that Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. She was
had nuggets?
That little bit where
God, she had
That
nuggets.
little
She
bit
had rat
where
testicles?
that actress was holding this rat, and it's obviously a rat that.
Is this
It's-
episode 1?
She is holding this live rat, and she is shaking the shit out
for
of
a
that.
show that you hated so much, we have spent so much time.
I'm going to have to
talking about
freaking
it.
watch this now to see this scene with this rat with the giant
You
testicles.
know what? And they asked me to rate it right after I watched episode 2. And I was like, "Can I give it a no star?" And I gave it a 1.
Except-
I gave it a 1, except for them shaking that. And that dude.
On rat testicles alone, this episode's a 5.
She
Everything
was-
else
the
is
thing that-
0.
But yet we have given it so much attention.
Yeah, 45 minutes of your time.
Anybody that listens to this podcast is going to be like, I'm going to have to go check that,
I
out.
gotta go watch this.
That
Nuts and
actress,
stuff.
she shook that rat so hard and so long that I was like, "Why is this rat not reaching
Oh my
back
God,
and
that
biting
sounds
her?
like a good Saturday night, don't it?
shaking my rat all evening long,
Oh, my goodness.
Because she shook it all night long.
shaking the rat." Is
Yeah.
that what the cool kids call
AC/DC
it?
did a song on that.
Shaking the rat. Bouncing the rat testes.
Yeah.
Rat nuts everywhere.
All right, so before we
I'm
close,
appalled. I'm not coming here anymore if we're going to talk about things like
so do you guys?
You most certainly will, and you will enjoy it.
What was Mike's name that that worked with us? He was the music guy.
Squid?
Squid.
Squid.
So no last names, but Squid. We all went down to Austin that time,
Yeah.
and we went to that open air bar. And he
Yeah.
was doing his impression of the guy from the Will Smith video.
No,
the
from
movie.
the
Men in
first
Black.
Men in Black, the dude that.
Have you seen my cat? That guy.
Hey, lady.
I think I remember him doing that.
So we were all down there
do it perfectly,
drunk
too.
as shit in that bar in Austin, and he's doing the he starts out with movie quotes and transitions into the what's the guy's name in the movie?
I gotta look
'Cause
that
his-
up.
his-
It's the farmer. It's the farmer guy that.
Yeah, his wife is in. Edgar. Edgar is the guy's name. Oh yeah, but that was nothing but a guy in an Edgar sack. And so he's doing Edgar. He's doing Edgar's voice as he's going through the, which is a guy from Full Metal Jacket. He's going through the whole thing, and then Squid transitions into Edgar talking about how he would tell a girl to give him a better blowjob. Do you remember this, Ginger?
I do.
And he's like, you get ball axe, don't forget my balls. He's doing that whole thing, and the whole, 20, 30 people around us start to complain. Like, you guys have got to settle this guy down. And you and Amy was there, right?
Yeah.
You and Amy are like, you guys got to get him to stop. And I'm like, no, this is comic genius. If he's getting all these people riled up, and you, Mike and I and Ron could not stop laughing. But it was the whole Edgar giving the girl instructions on how to give a better blowjob.
It was Vincent Dorfino.
Dorfino, yeah. Oh God, that was a good night.
You got to hook a brother up with some ball action.
That's what he
Ron,
kept saying.
yeah, Ron's.
I remember
friends with
that.
him on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah, I found him on Facebook.
Sweet.
The squid.
I'll have to follow.
The squid.
The squid. Well, that's good. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for suffering through Paul knocking the equipment over again.
Or the more likely, behind door number 2 is Brian fat fingering.
Is it more likely? I don't know if you considered all the probabilities. So we're done, I think.
Cool. 24 Minutes of Pain.
24 Minutes of Pain, episode 4.
AKA
Rat Nuts.
Rat Nuts.
And you have to put that 24 minutes.
I don't have to do. Yeah, mine, but I don't have to. Nobody's telling me what to do.
Damn.
I know.
Hook a brother up with some ball action.
We're done.
Bye.
Later.
Thanks for listening to that segment of the Binge Watch Podcast. You can find us online at www.bingewatchpodcast.com, on Twitter at BingeWatchPC, and on YouTube and Facebook by searching for Binge Watch Podcast.